You notice she was naming particular ones because Diddy knew who was gonna do it for him, child. He knew because she had swords in her mouth. She wasn't getting pleasured. This was all about Diddy, child. So he would have her fly in his faves. Mm-hmm.
And
Interesting.
those were repeat workers, so
He
they
had a
were based out
stable
of
of
somewhere.
escorts, big black bucks to please his woman while he pleased himself in the corner. I wonder if they were all on the company flight, on the company expense. He should have just hired them as 1099 employees. Sounds like they were work.
That's
I can't
funny.
relate to that. Jay, I know you can't relate to it, so I'm not going to ask you. P Man, what does that feel like? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not going to put your business out here, child. Never mind, my bad.
Don't start, Mickey. Don't start with me because I'm not. I'm
Don't
not.
start
I'm
what?
not one. I'm not the. I'm
Don't
not the
start
one.
what?
I'm not
You're not
one.
the one or the two, huh?
I'm not one. Nope.
You the
Nope.
three or
I'm
the
not
four, ain't you?
one.
You the three
I'm
or the
not
four in
one.
line.
I can get just as nasty as you can. So don't start with me. Seriously.
So
I,
this count two is
I'm.
sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. That's what
And
I
I don't
was
have
looking
swords in my
for.
mouth either.
So the grand jury further charges from at least in or about 2009 up to and including in or about 2018 the defendant in and affecting interstate and foreign commerce knowingly recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, provided, obtained, advertised, maintained, patronized, and solicited by any means a person knowing and in reckless disregard of the fact that means of force, threats of force, fraud, and coercion as described in Title 18, United States Code, Section 159, and any combination of such means would be used to cause the person to engage in a commercial sex act and attempted, aided, and abetted and willfully caused the same. Combs recruited, enticed, harbored, transported, and maintained a person, victim one, who I believe, who's victim one? Do y'all know?
I
Mhm.
think there are going to be three people that are Jane Doe's. I believe I read that, so that may be what that's pertaining to.
Right. There are other. So even though Cassie, part of that, there are other people they're waiting to actually put witness. And mind you, they can add more people to this witness list or to this testimony.
How can they do that?
Well, they just got to present certain other evidence to both part because just like they did today, right? So what happened was they introduced new evidence, but quickly and didn't give the prosecution time enough to read all 20, was it 29 or 26 pages?
Yeah, it was like
So
yeah, three. It was 300 and something pieces, and they dismissed that shit though.
well,
Some
that's
of
what
them,
I was
some of
gonna
them.
say. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They
That's what I was
did
gonna
read
say.
it
But that's
twice.
the thing. If you bring, see, that's what discovery is for. Is for any of those documents. You tell them what witnesses you plan on calling, so that you give the other side time enough to review the information. So
Right.
typically, if they want to introduce, sorry, a new witness or new evidence, they have to approach the judge, have to ask the judge if it can be permitted. But it's hard, very difficult to
And
do
that's what
that.
happened this morning because the defense tried to basically approach the judge to introduce new evidence to counter Cassie's testimony because that had finished the night prior. So they basically went to the drawing board and pulled up everything that they could, went into the courtroom and said, "Hey, look, we have a package of new evidence to refute her testimony," and the judge refused it. And apparently, Diddy was pissed about it, because there was a bit of a recess. And according to sources, he was outside steaming and kind of away from his lawyers. Then he got back and started, to berate them, is what I basically heard. I don't know if this is confirmed, but I have a link to a video I can drop in the chat here from the podcast host that basically stated that. And then during the court hearing, when that continued on, he was passing a lot of notes to his attorneys to make sure that they ask questions. And so when you're passing out those notes, instead of letting your legal team handle things, it makes you come across as controlling, right? And coercive.
Mm,
So that's
what
the report on
what
today.
Sue said? Well,
What I'm
that's
saying is that you can introduce in discovery, evidence, and that if you do it too soon, then the person won't lie on the stand. So you want to catch them in a lie. You know what I'm saying? You want to introduce that evidence after they testified. Sometimes it gets in and sometimes it don't. And I think that's just a horrible way that they run the courts in itself.
well, they did. And so here's the thing: they did introduce the evidence, and not all of it was dismissed. That's why they got to read a handful of those text messages back and forth today in court of between Cassie and Diddy. They didn't get to read all 300, but they did get to do a handful of them today. So yes, it was partial evidence, even if it was. That's why it caught them off guard, because they did admit that, and not all of it was dismissed. A handful of it was read today. So they did it last minute and kind of caught them off guard. And they said we didn't have time to read through all of them. So partial of that was read today in court, and partial of that evidence, new evidence, or whatever they had, was done today in court. And it was done very last minute. And I mean, the prosecution could do the same thing, if we're being honest, and introduce new people and new witnesses and new evidence of certain things. It's
Well,
just about what the judge approves, if he was going to let it fly or not.
Yeah, but the
Yeah, but
judge
that's
said
that's
that the
that's
defense has Cassie until Friday because she's basically due any day now. So he said that they need to wrap up the defense questioning Cassie, and that he might grant an exception after tomorrow if it was something that was a pretty big deal. You can
Right.
tell from how a lot of people are reporting that the judge is getting agitated. Um, and if Diddy is doing the berating and Muck was giving us updates, because CNN pretty much does live updates every 3 minutes, and he's passing notes, then this just makes him look really, really, really bad. And the prosecution is manipulative and threatening. So,
But see, this is what I was saying. This was what I was getting at, right? The prosecution, and I'm saying this outside of Cassie, yeah, move Cassie along. But if they wanted to introduce more witnesses and more evidence further down the case, you know what I mean? I mean, they can, and if it, and it's like the judge, if he's allowing it, then shit, it is what it is. Like, so it can get real nasty on both parties, to where they're trying to keep on sliding new things in there and catching the other side off guard. Yeah, Cassie's going to get moved along. Obviously, they're definitely moving on to different witnesses and different part of the case. But they can also, we don't know what last minute stuff they're going to actually try to slide in there in discovery and say, hey, we got some new stuff. We're going to go ahead. We got a new witness, this and that in discovery here. We're tossing it over so they have it. So they have a day and a half to review it, and then it's something different now. So,
It's not a question of sliding anything in. It's just a simple matter of legal
well, we
process. If
know
you
it's
get a
not sliding it in there. That's just a
hold on,
yeah,
term.
but you got to
hold
see the
hold
whole
on,
pause,
picture though,
hold on.
Rico.
pause.
You can't
Uh,
just skip over
can I
certain
finish?
shit though.
Can I finish? When you get on the stand and you say you make some certain allegations, you make some certain claim, you open up yourself for the other side to bring in a witness that could come up and rebut you, or bring in evidence that could rebut you. That's basically what it is. Defense will have a whole line of witnesses that may not be admissible, that might not be discoverable from the initial standpoint. But once you open up your mouth and say something that activated that, then they're going to want to bring it in. So the line of evidence that needs to be introduced, we don't even know. For the court to say that Cassie, defense should wrap up tomorrow or not, the court doesn't really have too much control over that, right? Except if it wants to create an appellate issue for the defense. Because if the defense says that this is relevant, in order to rebut this witness, and the court and the judge denied it based on time frame, or because she's about to give pregnant or whatnot, that kind of works in Diddy's favor, to be quite honest. I'm done.
right, but this
And
is a
as
Fed
in
case.
here,
He's been accused of decades of misinformation, of basically illegal activity. So this is just the foundation, right? You don't start out with your killer witness because you have to lay the foundation to show that there was a pattern. Like,
Exactly.
it's crazy to me how people are looking at this and like, this is kind of like a Madoff case to me because that's how they're approaching it. They're approaching it like he was, which he is, he's a conglomerate. This is not like a rapper racketeering case or something. This is very well thought out. They're kind of going overkill with Cassie, but I get it. They have to convince the jury without a benefit of a doubt that this man, exactly how he presented in this fashion, was how he conducted his professional and his business life. So he would break the rules. He would manipulate people. He would coerce them. He would threaten them. He would blackmail them. He used his staff and his money and his wealth and his status and his business and his influence to basically get whatever it was that he wanted. And he would utilize people and discard them because I see this clearly because you have to paint that picture. Diddy is not going to have any sympathy. The fact that Cassie is extremely pregnant right now and crying and emotional as a woman is when, she's pretty much about to give birth, like the defense, I mean for the prosecution, that is gold, right? That's just extra. That's just a bonus. They couldn't have, this couldn't have been played out any better. And she's giving this tearful testimony as they have to ask her supportive husband to leave out of the room, because he might be called upon to testify later because he's probably witnessed Cassie getting her ass beat. Everybody else has that work for him.
Yeah,
So I mean, this is just for anybody who thinks that this is not going well for the prosecution. Like, are you serious right now?
I'm not saying it's not going well. All right, I'm gonna say this. You're right with what you said at the beginning, right? You don't come out there, you don't come out there just dropping your biggest bombshell and actually your strong point at the beginning. This was they came out swinging. Now they came out swinging, but that was to set the tone. You know what I mean? You want to go ahead and give that bombshell of like what you got pissed in your mouth, all that other stuff, and so making it look like all of this. Yeah, that was a good right hook, and you're setting the tone. But you're never gonna go ahead and drop off like start off with your biggest witness, your nail in the coffin at the beginning. That's foolish. But at the same time, you know what I mean? You do have, and I'm just saying this, just speaking of just how the court, how it's a chess game. It's really chess, if we're being honest. You're not going to go ahead and have your main lawyer, for the defense team. You see how they only use the woman to actually go ahead and talk to Cassie and do the cross examination, which was a chess move too. You know what I mean? So it's going to be a back and forth, but both people are not going to go ahead and show all their cards at the top and be like, this is what we're going to hang up our case on. Of course not. We got a long trial, and that nail in the coffin is going to come in the middle to the end. And there's a chess game to see who's going to trip up who to go ahead and discredit. Like she said, it's not about what you can. It is. It's not about what's the truth. It's about what can you prove and how you're making the jury. Like you're playing on the jury. If she's tripping up on our words and it's not making sense to some of y'all, think about what the jury is thinking. You're just as normal as the jury. You have no special skills, as the jury has no special skills. So it's kind of just like you're almost like them. So if you're thinking that in your head that, oh, it doesn't sound right, the jury's probably thinking the same thing. If the jury's like saying, oh my God, I'm sympathetic to her tears and oh, she must have went through so much, and you're thinking the same thing, they're thinking that too. So you got to understand it's a chess game right now.
I don't think
Yeah,
it's a chess
Rico.
game. The feds
Good.
are methodical. The feds are boring. Think the IRS. This is not the OJ Simpson trial, right? That's how the feds are. That's why they have a 98% conviction rate. Homeland Security raided his house. This is a lot more than Cassie having sores in her mouth, right? I don't think people understand the magnitude. When you get Homeland Security involved, right? They raided his properties. If you look at how they laid out the allegations, I encourage everybody to look at the original indictment. They have been tracking him for decades. They've literally listed that this goes back for decades, right? This is about more. And the feds are not theatrical. The feds are not, they're boring as shit. Have you ever looked at federal attorneys? They're they're clean cut, they're dry. It's boring. This is salacious because of what the content is. But I don't think that this is a chess game. They are just going to basically throw so much data and information at them that by the time they finally get to it, it's just going to be overwhelming for the jury, right? All they have to prove, and it's actually very simple because the sex part of him being just basically so, I just can't believe that he was this loosey goosey with these activities. For him to be recorded on camera at such a hotel as the Intercontinental with a national reputation, for him to be so brazen as to try to blackmail people with cash. um because if I was Cassie, I would have sued the Intercontinental, to be perfectly honest. Because what did you do with that footage? They are required to report some things to the police, right? Because a lot of those places have their own version of a fiduciary duty. Diddy or any other celebrity should not be able to basically come in and say, "Hey, I'm going to give you $100,000 to make this go away," because now you're complicit in, basically hiding a crime. So, I mean, I think that the feds just going back on what Diddy's done, especially since Cassie was naming those hotels, she was rattling off the addresses, even though this was 10 years ago. I don't remember the address of my favorite hotel. Like, I really don't. Even one that I've probably gone to 100 times. I don't remember the address. She remembers the addresses, the cities, the times, even if she was prepped, the individual. She seemed like she was just remembering this stuff. This is devastating from my perspective. This is
What's so
devastating.
devastating? I don't get it. Because
But
she did these
I
hotels.
don't see it
How
devastating at
so?
all.
You don't get it. This
It's
is
not
about his
devastating, and it
business.
hasn't
What's so
risen.
devastating? Like,
It
It's
hasn't
not.
risen
It's
to the
not
point
devastating to
of
you
those
because
charges at all.
y'all don't see.
And let me say this:
Well, may I
I'm
respond
not
to
a
that question?
proponent for this man. This man being innocent. I'm a proponent for what is the truth and what actually happened. What was the were they both complicit in all of these acts? That because these are actual charges. Let's not be ridiculous here, man. Nobody's looking at all those nuances at the ground level of it. The jury's definitely not looking at all of those nuances that you're talking about. They want to know, was she forced, was she not? Were people forced to do things because he wanted them to for a sexual gratification? Were they not? That
Yeah,
hasn't been proven
But
yet.
see how
yeah. I
you're
thought this
overlooking
case
the
was.
abuse.
That
That's
I
stuff
because
thought this
hasn't been
case.
proven yet. And
y'all
I'm
are
not
not.
saying I'm not saying that the man is
Yeah,
innocent.
y'all are not
But
the
I'm
average
also saying
person.
no, let me finish.
The average
Please,
person is
let me finish. Let
disgusted
me
that
finish a
you
statement. If
interrupted
you
him
would not
speaking, sir.
no, you've been
He
talking for
said,
5 minutes.
"I
Let
don't
me get a
care."
word in. The point is
you
this.
should
If the
care.
man is innocent,
Why
then the
aren't
man is
y'all
innocent. But
triggered?
if the
Y'all need
man
to
is
beat the
guilty,
shit out of your
then the
women.
charges it then the proof has to rise to the benefit of the charges. And that is not what has happened
You
yet.
don't
And
even
we
know
got a
what you're
long way
talking
to
about.
go. We got a long way to go
We
on
got
this
a long
thing.
way to
Yo,
But
go.
it hasn't
this
happened yet.
here's
Yeah, I
something
thought
other
this
than what
case
you
was
already
about human
believe.
trafficking.
Damn.
I thought the case was about human trafficking. I thought that's what they were trying to get him
It
for.
Right. It
is.
just hasn't happened yet.
Okay,
It
so
is. She
right now
already
they're
said
just talking
that
about
they
their sexcapades,
They
basically.
already said She already said that they flew in their favorites depending on which city they're in. That's literally trafficking.
Right. But the problem
How
is that
is
she showed her complicity in that.
It's
Yeah,
not.
she
exactly?
she was the
It's
one who
He is
chose the
not on
people.
trial, sir. That
She's
is the
texting
problem
them.
with
Not
y'all.
she's
So
not
that does
texting them
not
for the
make
truth.
him the one who
You don't
initiated the
even be a
events.
big
That
city
means that
person.
she was complicit in ordering these
That is not
events.
what they're being charged to
That's the
determine,
point.
sir.
Yeah,
He is
and
not
then the
on
sad
trial.
part about it, Rich, is when he went back and he tried to do all the 300 text message. Rico just said that they only read a handful of them. I think that's
Exactly.
fucked up. That they didn't even
Exactly.
read all the messages. That's crazy.
It's
Like
just not
how
like
the
she's
fuck can you
texting
do
them
that?
from the trunk of a car. She's texting them from wherever she's at, saying we're gonna meet up at this
Right,
hotel,
because
and
And
he
she's
has
saying that
been.
naming
she's
eight
gonna
different
do this and do
hotels
that with this
So
person,
I
and
going
he's
on her
not
know.
even
free will.
there.
So you got a couple of
She's
cucks
going in
on
her
here
free will.
defending Diddy.
I'm
Cucks
just
for
saying,
Diddy.
read all
Y'all
the
need to start a
messages.
program. Y'all need to
Read
start a
it. I don't care if it's
Facebook group.
3,000 messages. Read all of them
Bro, he
motherfuckers.
was beating her ass.
So when I
Oh,
say that,
we all seen that, Nikki.
no, no,
She
no.
got
Let me
Prove
$20
your
million dollars.
emotions,
say
but
let me
prove the
answer the
guilt.
question.
We
Forget
all
your
seen
emotions.
that.
Okay,
Prove the guilt
Puffy,
of the
go ahead and speak.
charges.
Who's
That's
the
We
what
seen
president?
that. She got $20 million for that ass
Okay,
whooping.
big man is the president of the Cucks for
She got $20 million for that ass whooping. A lot of women don't get
Oh,
shit.
okay.
Forget your
Well, that lets
emotions,
me
man.
get your ass beat and suck
Prove
a
the
dick for
guilt of the
$20 billion
charges.
too. That's what
Yeah,
you're
Prove the
saying.
yeah.
guilt of the
Is that
charges.
what you would do? Because you're admiring her for that.
What happens with
So somebody
anybody on
beat
this
your
stage
ass
is
to
not
sodomize you
personal.
for twenty
It's not
million
about
It's
dollars.
us.
not.
It's
It's
about the
not.
charges.
Oh, so
It's
that's
about
why
the
that's
charges. And
why
the
you
fact
brought
that you
Cassie.
have to go personal proves that you have no idea what you're
Bruh,
talking
the
about. So you
charges
can't
have
prove your
nothing to
point,
do with
but you want to go
Cassie,
personal
dumbass.
so that you
The
can get
cha- the
that you
charges
because
have
you have
nothing
nothing
to do
else.
with
Yeah,
Cassie,
you're
dumbass.
factless is what you
Read the
are. You're
allegations.
factless.
Read the allegations, bruh. The charges have nothing to do with Cassie. Is he charged with domestic violence, domestic abuse?
No, he's
You're
not.
Is he
factless.
charged with rape?
No, that's not
No,
what
What
they're
is he
going. That's
charged
not what
with?
they're going
that's the
after him
Sex
point.
for.
He's not.
They're,
trafficking,
He's not
they're not
drug
charged with
charging him for
domestic
that
violence.
trafficking,
This
stuff.
case is
and
not about that.
racketeering.
No, he's
That's not what they're
not.
charging him for.
And
Bro,
They're
yet she
charging him
keep
for human
she
trafficking.
keeps talking about domestic violence shit.
Yeah,
She's the
Because
only
she
one that
feels
keeps talking
personal
about it.
about
domestic
that. And we
violence shit.
understand that. But
Somebody
that is
send the
not what
police
this
to
man
this
is being
motherfucker's
charged
house right
with.
now. He probably got somebody tied up in the basement. This nigga's, oh, I'm sorry, domestic
Probably.
violence
Oh, you're
shit.
ignorant as
That's what
hell.
That's the
you're
one.
saying.
She
Yeah,
just keeps
and
going on
She's
and
about
ignorant as
domestic
hell.
violence.
yeah, and you're a
no,
degenerate.
it's just
You
Mickey.
probably beat the fuck out of women that are around you.
No,
Probably,
no,
Domestic
no,
probably,
abuse.
no.
Are you
probably, but
serious right
probably
now?
is not
You're
what's
the one that's
on the
committing a
stand
crime.
right now.
You probably
No,
you
Probably
probably
is
would
not
beat
what
the
he's
bitch and have
being
sex right
charged
Hey
now.
with.
that's
guys,
not what they're
That
one
man is
charging
mic,
him
not
one
being
for.
mic,
charged
one
with
mic. Let's
property.
one mic
Let's
him.
be said.
That
Let's be
that
said.
yeah, that's not what they're
This is
charging
not
him
a.
for. The
No,
thing
let's be
is, the
said
thing
right
is,
now.
the whole domestic violence thing and stuff, all these things that he's doing, they are atrocious. But that's not what they're going to trial for. They're basically trying to pin him for human trafficking. And so this whole thing that has happened so far has, yes, it's pretty, I don't really condone any of this type of stuff. I think it's disgusting. However, going through these text messages and stuff like that, like she is also complicit with some of these acts. Like she's the one who chose the people to come and meet them to do some of these things. So, and I don't really see how any of this is being pinned onto him about human trafficking, and you guys said that, the case is a long case and, there's going to be more people called up. And so, like, I think you guys are right. This is just the foundation of it. But as far as what we've heard so far, like there's really nothing about him. There's really nothing about them forcing people to come in and join them on these sexcapades via human trafficking. So right now I don't really think that they have anything on him just for that. But for the domestic violence and all this other stuff, if he was being charged for that, then he would have probably uh, been
Yeah,
losing the
throw
case
him
right
under the
now.
jail
But
for that.
he's
Yeah.
not. So, sir, do you know what the definition? I'm not even. Do you know what the definition of sex trafficking is? Like crossing state lines. You know that paying for sex is illegal, right?
Which
Do
is
you
another
do
thing
you
that's
know that?
crazy. But
May I finish, please? I'm trying not to call y'all cucks for Diddy, but there we go. Do you not know that?
No, we understand you're ignorant.
One
Oh,
mic,
and
guys.
I
One mic.
understand
One mic.
that you
Let's
probably
not
One
go
mic, one
personal.
mic, one mic. Let's go.
thank you, Jotham. I mean, I'm not the one defending a man that jacked off and like male semen on his nipples, but hey, guys, whatever floats your boat. If your girl
that's
is
not
down for
illegal
it,
though.
you know what? Maybe you got a girl like Cassie and you like to kiss urine in her
God,
mouth.
could you get to
Listen,
the
that's not
point?
illegal. Like all
Could
of
you
that
get to the
stuff that
point?
sounds
Oh,
crazy and
could I
My
get to the
God.
escalated. It
point
probably
that
is,
these
but
men for the
it's
same
not
couple of
illegal.
hours have
Get to
literally
the
been
point
saying,
and make
"We're
it
Hey
not
yo,
happen.
doing
We're
hey,
this.
It's
waiting
one
not
for
one
it.
second. Whoa,
illegal.
whoa,
Okay,
whoa,
let's
whoa,
go
whoa.
again. Let's
When
reset.
you
Room,
say
room,
something
Oh,
that's
room. Guys,
illegal,
One
guys,
it's
mic,
come on.
illegal.
Let's
You
one
go.
might have
mic,
Focus
someone
on
on your
one
side.
person
go
at a
ahead and
time.
speak,
one
cucks. Go
One
ahead and
person at
speak,
a
cucks.
time.
Go
One
ahead.
person at a
Go
time. Let's
one
ahead.
go.
mic. Hey,
Okay,
listen.
Blah,
there
blah,
is no
blah.
way they can hear you with your mic calling out one mic.
Right, listen. If you
No,
wanted to get
Jay,
to the
let the
point,
cucks speak.
hold on, Mickey,
They
Mickey.
probably
Hold
pay
on,
for a dominatrix. Go
Mickey.
ahead.
Hold on, Mickey. If y'all want to get to the
Probably.
point, stop interrupting. Let her land, and then follow her. Okay.
Yeah,
90
but
It's
she got to
seconds,
it's
yo.
stop
not.
with the
It's this is
personal
a
shit and get
this
to
is a
the point of the
podcast
matter
being
so that we can
recorded.
Exactly.
follow. Because
90
nobody's
seconds.
following when you're
Okay,
doing all
cool.
this personal shit.
Well,
90
let her
seconds,
land.
y'all.
She can be
Make your
personal
point.
if she wants to.
Let
He's
her
talking about
land.
touching nipples with sperm. Like, who gives a fuck? Like
I
that.
mean,
Right. Don't
That's in
nobody
the
want to hear
trial, boo
that.
boo. That's in the
That's not
trial,
what
boo
he's on
boo.
Well,
trial for.
that
Nobody wants to
obviously
hear
they're
that.
not
Nobody.
following the
Who
case because that's what
cares?
they're talking
Oh,
about.
now they
Just
care
saying,
about what he's on
you don't
trial
want to
for.
hear
He's
it.
also
That's what
Cassie
we've
is
been
not on
saying.
trial.
Is what it
Wait,
prove? This
Cassie is
has to
not on
prove.
trial. So why do
This
y'all keep
has
talking
to
about Cassie, boo boo?
prove the
Follow your
charges. That's
own
what we're
advice.
talking about.
Cassie is not on trial. So why do y'all keep talking about Cassie? Oh, got your ass, huh?
No, you got
No, because she's
nothing.
Then
testifying right
stop
now.
talking
You
That's
about
got
why. She's the
Cassie.
nothing, and
subject.
it's ridiculous.
Then stop talking about Cassie because she's not on
Oh my
trial sheet.
God!
Nobody
See
else
how
has
that
Stop.
said
works?
anything to get
okay,
into
okay. Let's
this
try this
debate.
again. Hey, we're gonna try this one more time. Just
Wow.
Come
let's
for Diddy.
Mickey.
What? I'm sorry, Big Daddy. Oh,
All right, so man, y'all got look. My kids still up. Come on now. So listen, Mickey, you land, and then everybody else follow. No more interruptions. Let's practice for like 5 minutes. See how this goes. Okay. All right, Mickey, you go. But lay off the personal attacks for a second. Just give them the facts because I can
sure,
tell there's
Big
some not
Daddy.
following of the case. Okay. All right.
I will try to speak about the
Good
facts.
luck,
So,
Mickey.
Again.
I blame the U.S. education system because clearly people don't understand what racketeering is. They don't understand what a federal case is, although you would think that some of them would because I don't know, it's just giving jail to me. But, first or second generation, I can't relate. Is that personal? I'm sorry. I'm just going by the
Mi-
data.
Mickey.
I'm sorry, Big Daddy. So Cassie is not on trial, right? So whether she was complicit, whether she did it with the tutu on, whether she took pictures and put it on Instagram and said, "Oh my God, I really like having sores in my mouth and doing these things," it is irrelevant. Why? Because Diddy is on trial. Diddy is on trial. Diddy is in jail, actually. Cassie's not in jail. She's living her best life, spending that $20 million dollars minus attorney's fees and state taxes in New York, right? And she's literally spending his money on her man and on her children. Doesn't that make y'all mad? She got some generational wealth
Why
from
do you
doing
think that
all
would
of
make
that.
us mad, though?
That sounds
Oh,
like an airhead
there's the
statement.
child of ADHD and his
Let her
brother.
land, guys.
You know what? I
She
am
asked a
gonna
question.
land.
Doesn't that
Oh,
make you mad? That was a
there we
question.
go.
Let
Well,
her
I would
land.
never
Hey.
Let her
ask
land.
All
you.
right.
I,
Let her land.
AR, I would never ask you what makes a man,
You,
sweetie.
but
Just
you asked a
FYI.
question, and I
Go ahead
answered
and
it.
speak, less than a
I
man.
just
You
said,
got the
Hey,
mic.
why would
but
that make us mad?
Mickey, real talk though, when you blamed the education system, you sounded like that guy that blamed Biden. I'm not gonna lie.
I
There is
mean,
no way you
they
can
can't
blame.
read and they can't comprehend. What else would I blame?
But look,
Their fathers? Oops.
no,
Can't blame
but
them.
I think the guys come from this perspective where
Oh,
they
I'm sorry,
they
y'all, for that
feel the
comment.
whole
I apologize.
entrapment vibe from Cassie, right? And the thing is that she was really, really young. So I understand defending her because she was 19 years old. I'll man, let somebody pull that shit on my 19-year-old. I have a
Their
19
first
year old.
kiss is when she was 21.
Was it really? With
Yeah,
Diddy?
Yes, that's what they said
21.
today.
And
Correct.
she never kissed anybody until she was 21 and
She
she
was with
No,
kissed
her
Ryan
Diddy?
first
Leslie.
kiss with Diddy was when she was
She was with
21.
Ryan Leslie previous to that.
Okay, so she's 21 years old when she was with Diddy. That's an adult, no?
Thank you.
Correct.
Thank you.
Look at the guys, man. This is funny.
No,
I
it's
mean
just about the
Miki.
facts. It's not
No,
about taking
I
a
mean
side.
it
It's the
is.
facts.
It is. I listen, if we're gonna cover a case, we better stick to it. Leslie said that I have some misreported facts on here. Joseph, did you talk while I was gone?
No, Diana, I didn't. So
Oh,
quickly,
Joseph, talk to me, Joseph. Talk some
um,
sense into this shit. Because I
so
really, Leslie laughed at me, but I'm not following this case outside of DTN. This is my place for updates on this case. What you got?
so there are five charges. There are two sex trafficking charges, and there are two. I think it's transportation for prostitution, and then there's one RICO charge. So they don't need to prove the sex trafficking charges. They don't need to prove the transportation charges. They can get him just on the RICO charges alone. If they can prove that there was a criminal enterprise, that he was a part of it, and that he benefited from it, and that two criminal acts were committed under the umbrella of that, they can convict him. So it's not necessarily about the sex trafficking.
Oh, Diddy's going to jail. If that's the way that it is set up, unless Suge Knight is right, and freaking Poppy Trump over here is gonna get him off. I don't know if you heard that, Miki. We played that last night. Um, Diddy's going to jail because they have everything they need to prove just that Rico case, in my opinion, from what I have been able to hear. What do you think, Joseph?
I think that if I was Diddy, I would probably be more worried about those RICO charges because they don't need to prove that he even committed any of those predicate acts. They just need to prove that he was somehow aware of it. Even if someone else did it, they can still get him if they can prove the prerequisites for the RICO charges. So I think that's a lot easier to prove than the sex trafficking.
So, would calling a prostitute across state lines constitute as one of those things that he needs to know about to fit under that RICO, Joseph?
Yeah, that would be one of them. So sex trafficking is a standalone charge, but it's also a predicate charge underneath the RICO. So is the, I guess, transportation of prostitution. They're two separate charges, but again, it's also underneath the RICO charges. So also underneath the RICO charges is drug distribution, witness tampering, a couple other bribery, a couple other different things. They only need to prove two instances of those under the RICO to convict him on that.
She asked him for pills, and this is on record during the trial, for him to get her pills. I think there may have been some text messages, something of that nature. If he goes to his doctor and basically gets her pills, does that constitute? Does that fall under the RICO?
It could, yeah. If they prove the prerequisites for the RICO, again, it's that there was a criminal enterprise, he was aware of it, he participated in it. I'm giving like a very quick summary. It's a little bit more complicated than that. But if they establish the RICO and that he was a part of it, yeah, if he was distributing controlled substances, for example, oxycodone, which apparently she had a problem with, and apparently he OD'd on. If they can prove that under that context, that's one hit. Then they only need to prove one more thing under that RICO to get a conviction on that charge.
We already have that because in the text message, he instructed Cassie and coordinated the prostitutes with Cassie to travel across state lines, and that's all on text message as well.
Exactly. And the jury has to also understand those RICO charges and believe that he's guilty of that. But from like a charging standpoint, legally, that's how it's set up. Now, how easy is that going to be? I don't know. But it's a lot less of a gray area, and there's a lower threshold for those predicates because he doesn't have to be the one who actually committed them. It could have been someone else doing it at his direction.
And Cassie is under his direction because, in essence, she was employed by him. This is another thing too. I mean, everybody's making this about Diddy and Cassie on this early onset. This is not what this is about. She's just at the beginning stages. And if you look at Diddy's history of individuals and celebrities that have basically come forward, and there's going to be a lot of witnesses. There's Little Rod that basically said there was sexual assault. There was a complaint about that. There's multiple Jane Does. We've got rumors of Dawn Richards, Talia Graves, Ashley Parham, Brianna Bonagan. They all basically, hey, look, Diddy's basically done something to these individuals. There's been interviews with Terrence Howard, even though he's not going to be called forward. But hey, Diddy made advances to him. Marlon Wayans, like, listen, I'm staying away from Diddy parties because I want to distance myself from questionable activities. Then you've got Kid Cudi basically getting his car basically burnt out. You've got a tyrant. You've got a pattern of an individual that's creating tyranny out and about in that industry. And when you look at Cassie, Cassie's not really creating that level of tyranny, and she's only the first individual. So by the time this is all said and done, Cassie will just be an afterthought because y'all can't focus on Cassie throughout this because you're gonna have a barrage of other
Yeah,
witnesses
nobody's
that are
trying
gonna
to
come
do that.
forward.
Just to be clear, nobody's trying to do that. Like we have no idea what's going to come out, and they say 4 weeks is going to be 4 weeks, but so far, like what you're even what you're saying right now, like if you're saying Terrence Howard and whoever Marlon Wayans or whatever, all of that proves is that Diddy's gay. Like so far, we only care about crimes, right? So yeah, if there's going to be things that comes out that's proven that he really kidnapped people, really held people against their will, really drugged people, because that's what I'm more concerned about. Like that he really drugged people and have sex with them without their knowledge. Now, when we start hearing stuff like that, then I'll be all on board with all of y'all that's trying to crucify him. But so far, all we heard was Cassie basically say that she was down with the whole thing.
Okay, it doesn't mean to reach that level, and you've seen basically the abuse from Cassie's perspective, and Diddy's not getting on the stand. So, yeah,
Yeah, but point of matter, we're not the ones who are making it about Diddy and Cassie. This is the prosecution's story to that they're writing right now. This is where they decided to start this trial. So this is where we are right now. We're watching it and we're commenting on it. We're deciding what we think may have happened, but we're not the ones who are focusing on that. That is the focus of the trial at this point, and we haven't met the the threshold for these charges yet. We haven't seen that yet.
you think, I mean, and that's a matter of opinion. From my perspective, I think that that threshold has basically been met already at this onset.
I
And
disagree,
I
but
agree, Joseph.
it's understandable.
Based on the charges, absolutely. They've identified trafficking, like you said. They've identified him being manipulative, threatening, all of those things, abusive.
Exchange of money.
Yes, they've identified. Is that you or you three? They've identified him using his staff to intimidate as well. So he basically had paid individuals, which that's interesting to me because it's kind of
Is he
surprising
being
to me.
charged with that stuff?
Yes, he is.
No, he's not.
So
What do you mean by
under the
is he being
RICO, he's
charged?
being charged with like 8 things. Give me
Oh,
one
Jesus
second.
Christ.
So under
Joseph,
the
I'm going
RICO,
to cash app you. Please send me your cash app because this is labor, child. This is some labor, honey. Okay.
That's enough.
Starbucks on me tomorrow.
so guys,
Yeah,
under the
it's
RICO,
difficult. It's
You can
difficult
send me
when
one
there's
too.
facts. It's difficult. I
under the
get it.
RICO, he's being charged with dozens of different predicate crimes allegedly, and they fall into the categories of sex trafficking by force, fraud, and coercion, transportation for prostitution, kidnapping, obstruction of justice, forced labor, drug distribution, bribery, and arson. So they need to prove that 2 of those dozens of crimes that they alleged happened
Not
underneath the RICO
arson.
statute.
Who'd he burn?
Kid Cudi's car.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Look at y'all jumping in allegedly. I remember. Oh my god, I
Well,
remember
Kid
when
Cudi
this
even admitted that one, and so
when this
Yeah, he
started
could have
coming
been
out.
confused. It was a stormy night.
Man,
Allegedly.
you guys are reminding me of when
Come
this
on,
stuff
yo.
first started coming out. You guys were defending, or you guys. I don't mean the two of you because I've never talked to you guys, but y'all were defending this Diddy guy like tooth and nail, and the ladies were defending Cassie tooth and nail before the trial even started a while back. And I think for me, I'm just stuck on the part where I see her as a victim because of her age and because of his power, but I can't send the message that I don't know the role of the women, me included, when it comes to certain things like this. And I say me included because I'm a woman and I grew up in Los Angeles. I put in the chat earlier that I even reached out to some of my old friends who would frequent the supper clubs. And it's a lifestyle to a lot of people. So while we're here dissecting this case and going at each other, I just want to continuously remind people that while there are victims, 100% know that there are victims. I can also 100% attest that this does become lifestyle. And the question is, are we looking at it from the perspective that she was a child? Because to me, a 19-year-old is still a child. And she
21.
was put, huh? 21?
21. Hmm.
21. You see? It's a tricky topic, Miki. I get it. But I'm telling you, when Harvard over there brought up that excellent point, because some of you guys forget law needs ethics and morality, right? When he brought up the participation of the other person's role in continuing the, in this case, sadistic form of attraction and addiction, there's enough fault to go around in my book. So I will leave it there.
Can I ask you
I'm
a
gonna,
question?
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so part of what came out today, in her own words, was um, that basically as time went on, she was down with everything at one point. She even enjoyed it, right? As time went on, and I guess when she started, learning different behaviors of him or whatever, she began to not be as interested and was only saying that she wanted to do it according to her. um like basically she was going through the motions. She was no longer really,
Well,
you
she
know
said she did it because she didn't want him to get another woman to do it.
right. So right, okay, so she said that. um but her communication to him is, I can't wait. I can't wait to the next one. I can't wait to the next one. Now, we talked about him being rich and powerful and all that. How does somebody that's rich and powerful determine if somebody who's saying they want to do it is really at the stage of of, well, I really don't want to do it, but I just don't want that to happen, or I just don't want that to happen. So I'm just going. I'm. I feel like I'm being forced. You know what I'm saying? Like, you hear where all that is going. Like,
I mean, I understand your concern for sure. I think I think that that's where it starts to turn into a lifestyle. Because if even in your speech, it sounds like, I mean, look, I know of marriages where one of the parties wants to engage in a different type of sexual relationship with themselves, and that means that they're more explorative and they want to do all these different things. And ideally you go to your spouse to communicate those types of desires, but when you go outside, then you open up the door for a lot of different things.
mm,
So this isn't just a Cassie Diddy thing. I think the Cassie Diddy thing for me personally, because we're all just sharing our personal interpretations, has to do with the age and that whole reality that a person can definitely be dominated by another human being solely based on the age gap and the experience gap and the money gap and the power gap and the gap. Because if
but
we're
does that
going
make him wrong?
exactly, that's
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 the
what I was
question.
about to say.
Okay.
Is that when you come across an individual with, I can't even, if my grandmama was alive, I'd probably use the word depravities, but I have learned that there are people with sexual desires that far exceed my level of comprehension, yet they're not alone. They just happen to be more open and vocal about it. I will never wrap my head around anyone who allows urine in their mouth. I would probably die fighting to get out. And I know that could be triggering to people in abusive relationships, but I think that we as human beings understand the power of our limitations. And I promise you, no one's pissing in my mouth.
Yeah, I think that is that as far as the weird and the kink sort of thing. I think that even goes over that meter right there. That to me was a bit jarring. The fact that she wanted that and asked for that was a bit jarring for me.
Rich, and the jarring part for me is I'm 43 years old. So I have friends in a lot of different places, right? So even mental health professionals that I've talked to, in cases where you can't understand another person's position, they believe in some of the things that were brought up today, which is that mental manipulation and coercion and all these other things do matter. And they're just very tricky to bring through trial because you have, in this case, two adults, fully adults if she was 21, that chose to engage in a style of life that had consequences. And I don't think that it's a good message to send to people that when you are in a very horrible place, that misery apparently wants company. And as long as you're paid for it, you're doing your job description. And so you should have some type of slack thrown your way. I can't. Not yet. I'm here to be convinced, though. I know Chat's not hearing him. You guys ran her off with her wanting her freaking high value conversations. I saw earlier she had a room. I couldn't get into it though. Um, Asking why are so many people defending? I think both of them. Anybody was in that room? Did you guys find out why? No, because it's just really interesting to see the defense on both sides when I see it. This case is really, really interesting to me.
I don't know
No
the way
one's
I see
talking
it.
about the case, Diana, and that's what's problematic and probably triggering for me, just because if you're going to have a discussion about something like this, why not discuss the case? So then it lends me to judge those individuals because I'm like, why are you focusing on something that's almost irrelevant? Like, this is very unusual to me, but abuse is not because I've seen it, I've read about it. Um, of course, right? I'm a Gen X adult. I've heard about abuse. I've read stories of women being killed in Peterson and, all of these things. So I know what can happen far more than, you know, um, a man basically insisting that his girlfriend have sex with strangers for his amusement, right? She's alive because a lot of women don't make it out of these situations. So to me, if someone's going to discuss the case, let's discuss the case, right? Let's discuss the allegations. Let's discuss the indictment. Let's discuss the charges. Let's discuss the testimony. But when you kind of move away from that, I'm sorry, but it's a little bit weird.
But
Not
Who's
Miki,
done
I
it?
think I
Who's
think
done
we're
yeah.
that?
discussing I think we're
He
discussing the
didn't
defense.
insist anything.
But
And
I
see,
think we're
and people
discussing the
can't even
That's
defense.
the
allow
problem.
you to complete a statement, which is
Who
also a problem. But
who's
again,
moved away? I'm
I
asking you
blame how
questions
people were
based on what you
reared.
just. I'm asking you a
I
question
wasn't
based on what
finished
you just.
speaking, sir. I just took a pause, okay? So
Okay, well I didn't know that. So go ahead, continue.
Yeah, me either. I didn't know. Sorry. Go for it.
it's no problem. But that's the thing. I mean, this is just people wanting to form an opinion and basically say, I'm going to align with Cassie or Diddy. But like I said, to me, now I can acknowledge that I was reared in a particular manner that would not allow me to give Diddy any grace. Number one is the person who was the arbiter of all of this, basically, the one who financed it, also the older person, also the male, also the person that had the most to lose, also the person that I'm sorry, I'm just going to look at a man a particular way if, like I said, you sit in a corner and pleasure yourself while someone is drilling your girlfriend. I'm sorry. That's just not the kind of men that I was reared around. Most certainly not. So while everyone else is like, Cassie said this and Cassie, and I'm like, but did he? Like, he had another man's semen who had just had sex with his girlfriend that he was parading around Hollywood and Vegas and taking all these trips and he was kissing her after having another man urinate in her mouth. Those are the things that stick out to me. But like I said, I know what the allegations are against him, so I frame my responses around that if we're ever talking about the case. But what I'm finding is that for whatever reason, and it tends to be a lot of men for whatever reason, certain kinds of men, not all men, of course, that are really, really fascinated with the fact that Cassie is guilty too. So they don't know the actual charges because it's almost irrelevant, right? This testimony, in a sense, in terms of the acts, right? She could have basically been testifying that, you know, I don't know, he liked her to take money from the ATM or something because I know that paying an escort for sex is illegal. So there you go. She testified that they destroyed hotel rooms because he liked this. body oil or whatever everywhere and the drugs. So I'm just kind of looking at that in totality versus focusing on who's complicit or not because he's the one that's on trial. So maybe in future days, people will be more well informed to actually have a discussion about the case versus just bearing out their hatred for young, pretty women who make bad choices. But, dare to dream.
Can I
I think
respond to
accountability
that?
is
Can I
something that a
respond to
lot of
that,
people are
please?
allergic to today.
Can I respond to that, please? So I just want to say that while you're disgusted by those things that you're disgusted by, you're not the only one. Like the semen thing and all of that, and urinating in the mouths, it's not my thing. I'm disgusted by that too. The question is that illegal? And that's where you know every time I hear those things and they say, "Oh, he did this disgusting thing," and I say, "Yeah, okay, so but what's he on trial for?" You know what I'm saying? So don't take it to mean that because we say some things that we're trying to bring out exactly what's illegal here. You know what I'm saying? Don't take it to mean that we're for this sick act and that sick act. Like I think you're mixing the two together, and that's that's just one of the things that I don't know.
I
Um,
think to say that we're not
No,
paying
you
attention
did
to the
you did
charges
great,
because we're
AR.
not.
Hold on, Rich, really quick. I will pass it right back to you. You did great explaining to Miki why it is that you can still continue to focus on the defense side because remember, Miki, did he say no diddy? He's saying all of this was consensual. He's saying that everybody knew about what was going on. And the only problem he's got on his hands is the money part, right? That's the part that's going to get him in big trouble.
and that shouldn't be
And
a problem either, honestly, because I mean,
well, it's a problem because of what Miki said. It's technically illegal
Well,
in
I
the
think
states
that's the
that
only
he.
part they have done a very good job at proving in this case was as far as the money is concerned. Now, everything else, yeah, it's disturbing. A lot of it is disgusting, and nobody wants to hear it. But these are the things that they both were into. Now, I live in LA. That is probably something that is so normal to hear that goes around at these types of parties. It's ridiculous. Come on, man. I mean, this is a normal fucking thing. But we have Diddy on trial for this, and Cassie was involved in this as well. So I'm not saying that Diddy is not guilty of some heinous shit because everybody who knows that man's name, and he's pretty much a household name, has been since the 90s. You know, we've heard all the things. Everybody has heard all the things. Now, if this man was on trial for all the things, then we'd all be sitting here saying, and it doesn't matter if it's a woman or a man, we'd all be sitting here saying, "Oh yeah, he's guilty as hell. Lock his ass up, throw away the fucking key." But that's not what we're saying here.
Hey,
So it
Rich, I
doesn't
want
mean that
to.
we're not paying attention to the charges. It just means that we're trying to find the facts, and where the facts prove the charges.
Hey, Rich, I
and
want
I
to
don't
fact
think
check you real
anybody,
quick.
any man
Hold
in
on,
this
hold on,
room,
hold on,
I
hold
don't
on. Let
think
me jump in.
any man in this room is anti young woman like it was implied a minute ago. Like
Okay, let me jump in. Let me jump in real quick. Rich, I want to fact check you here because you said something that was a little triggering earlier. You said when the urination occurred, she asked for it, right? That's what you said. But
Well,
remember,
the gentleman that witnessed, he said that this was something. He said, well, I guess he was asked, well, I guess when the urination became a part of these freak off sessions, and he said those things were asked. Those were the details that Cassie would ask him for.
he said Cassie asked for those details.
He says these were the details that Cassie would specifically ask him
Just
for. He said he never got a chance to talk to Diddy about these things because all of these things went between him and Cassie. And a lot of times Diddy didn't know about these things.
oh well, according to Cassie, she's saying that Diddy's the one that orchestrated and asked and would urinate on her,
Right.
and that's what she said on the
That's
stand.
exactly.
That's
So
what she
that
said
was
on
on
the
the
stand.
back
So
end, but
yeah.
he dealt with her. That was on the back end, she
No,
said.
actually, what
But
she
he
said
dealt with hers,
was
what she said.
he testified that when he did it, they both corrected him, meaning that Diddy was in the room and that Diddy was the one that basically issued the commands for change of direction or to put more baby oil. So if he was
Yeah,
not
she did
there,
say that he
then he would
directed.
FaceTime.
He
And
would be directing. Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. And what I'm saying in relation to the facts, the other gentleman just admitted that he did not know the charges. So it's easy to get caught up. Well, I won't say it's easy, I guess, for some people to get caught up in that aspect of it. But Cassie is honestly irrelevant. She's being used to lay the foundation at the very beginning of a long 8-week trial where the feds have allegations and charges going back
Is
decades.
it six
So
weeks
I
or
have a
eight
question.
weeks?
I have a
They
question.
said about
If,
eight. My
if
God, are y'all okay? Can I
oh you, I
finish?
thought you stopped.
Oh,
Damn,
I'm
go
literally.
ahead.
It's
Well,
gonna
pardon
be
me.
a
Can you hear?
long night.
It
Jesus
was it six or
Christ!
8 weeks? I
I
don't
All
don't
you gotta
think.
understand.
do is say I wasn't finished. You know,
I
stop.
don't
Hey,
think.
Mickey,
Go ahead.
Mickey,
Bro, your
what
voice was
time zone,
my man got to
Mickey?
the high voice, didn't
Mickey, what time zone you in, Mickey?
It's 12:55 here. My God, I see why
Okay,
teachers are
it's
leaving.
10:55 where I'm at.
he? Right.
So
It's 10:55 here.
there we
I mean,
go.
but then that means that people
It's
should be more
1:56
calm
where I'm
at
at.
11 o'clock. But
All
okay.
right, so it's nobody's bedtime. Only the East Coast people are sleeping right now. Okay, go Mickey and then AR. And
I
Rich,
was
I'm
not
from
talking.
LA too. I'm telling them. I'm trying to tell Mickey this is a lifestyle over
Right.
here.
This is some normal shit.
I'm sorry. I was not reared in a manner that cuts people out where necessary, but you still need to have some basic manners in order to communicate. But hey,
Fuck
I'm a
that.
Southern girl, so apparently, like I said, we were all reared differently and can only aspire to the level of our bloodline.
Well,
Okay.
decorum
The
has been
point,
Hey,
established,
that
but you
remember
the
our
cannot
point,
police
first
the
other
fight,
one that
people's
the
Mickey?
words.
Our
one that
Come
first
on.
everyone's
fight was
fighting
over
for, waiting
bloodlines.
for. The,
I
Yeah,
love
it's
it.
pretty funny, isn't it?
We
It
have
really is.
decorum, but you
We
just
should
can't
we should
police how
have a
people
room
talk.
on that
I'm
one
You know
sorry.
day.
what? You guys can engage with yourself since it seems to be so fascinating for you. I'll just listen. I'll just listen. This is good research for me, actually.
Nice.
Not y'all staying quiet when she finally gave up the mic to you guys. Mickey, go finish.
No, like I said, if you don't really know the facts and you don't really know what the feds are trying to lay out, or you're not interested in the facts, I don't see why the fascination is with Cassie. I can't overlook abuse like that. That's the first thing I heard. He would step on her head when she was down. And people are talking about the text messages as if she wouldn't get her ass beat if she didn't appear to be happy with what's going on. So, if we're going to talk about that, talk about the fact that he still made her engage in these things with UTIs, incurable UTIs, which as a woman, I can't even imagine what that means if UTIs hurt like hell, right? If a woman has ever had one, and they're pretty common, especially during the summer months. They hurt like hell. I cannot imagine her doing all these things with sores in her mouth. Um, just the sheer physicality of what that would have felt like. Wincing, pain, how anyone in their right mind who's ever had sex with a woman in their entire lifetime, even once, would even think that a woman was doing this for money or for pleasure is just beyond me, right? And maybe this is why the marriage rates are going down because young women are realizing that a lot of men are just completely clueless. I can't imagine how it probably was akin to, having sex multiple times a day right after you've given birth. Like, does it the pain that must have been, it's just insane for me, especially since they said that Diddy liked them a little bit well hung,
I
So,
think as a man, we agree.
ugh.
We agree that
I'm
we
supposed to
agree
do
that
that.
that's terrible for someone to be forced to do that stuff. But if you're not being forced, I don't feel bad for that shit that you went through. Who the hell?
So I
Why in
had
the
a
hell would I sit here and feel bad for a woman going through something that she wanted to do? Hell no. We don't live in that type of society. No, you decide what it is that you're okay with doing. You do that, and whatever happens after that is up to you because you decided to do that disgusting dumb shit. Now, if you're being forced to do that, then that's one thing. If you're being forced and held against your will and all that shit, that's one thing. But that's not what we've seen here. No, I feel bad for a person that's being forced to do something like that. But if you're not forced to do that, I don't give a damn if you had 10,000 canker sores in your mouth and going through it and had cavernous holes in your body that you made through illicit sexual events. I don't give a shit.
so I have a
It's about the
question. I
thresholds
have
for
a
you.
question, y'all. I have a question. So So she just uh, described that Diddy would be in the corner directing, right? And I think that's the key word here, directing. So what's the difference between someone paying people and directing them? What's the difference between that and shooting a pornography, and where a director directs the people that's having sex, and then they're also paying them? What's the difference, and how is one illegal and one is perfectly legal?
Because they're
I'll,
prostitutes. Very
I'll tell
simple.
you why.
What's the difference?
Let me.
Prostitutes and sex workers getting paid for sex, whatever. But porn is legal. You can direct someone to have sex and make a porn, but you can't direct someone and pay them and have sex. Like what? Because one is a sex worker and one is a
Let
pornography
me.
Yeah,
actor.
because one's
Let
an
me
Like what
address
is
Okay,
actor.
hold
that.
this?
on, you
One's
guys.
one's
One
an
is a
Pause,
actor. The
director.
pause,
other
Can I?
one
Can
pause,
I?
you
is a
Can I
guys.
sex
We've
jump
worker.
got a
in?
radio signal in from Clubhouse. I saw JB's twin. Are you guys over there on Clubhouse listening to
I
us?
don't know about JB's twin, but Clubhouse is listening for sure.
No, no, no. Oh, sweet. No, I meant JB's twin because JB's got two profiles over here. And
But
so
yeah, but
one
I would
is
definitely
where
love to
you
say,
guys
would love to
sound in
submit some
from. So I
information
saw
from
you. Go
Clubhouse.
for it, sweet. And then we'll circle back to all the points that are being made over here. It's Diana,
Yeah.
by the way.
Hey, yeah, good stuff. Here's the whole point again. Yeah, we all have a way that we were brought up, and many of
So
us
can
have
someone
different.
answer what I just asked?
I'm about
Yes,
to,
but
bro.
hold
I'm
on.
about
You
to.
actually jumped in front of Rich's point, and then we missed Miki, but she said she'll be right back. I don't know if she's here. Let's have Sweet chime in and jump into the conversation. We'll keep it going. Go for
Yeah,
it, Sweet.
yeah. And I'm gonna address this directing that people be having sex and they like to be directed, and that lifestyle is part of it. And joy for many people. Tell me what to do, submission. It's maybe that's not your world, but understand that agreement amongst that world, which might call it underground world, this and that, whatever. But the whole point about that's coming across is it was a whole lot of agreement, a whole lot of I like this, a whole lot of I want to be close to these millions of dollars, a whole lot of which if you live in LA, that is extraordinarily normal. I want to be
Very.
around, I want to be around this lifestyle. And then on an intimate level, people enjoy what they enjoy. When they want to submit, they want to be submissive, they want to be led. They want, it's not, that's not anybody else's place to start getting in everybody's bedroom to tell everybody how they supposed to get down and what they like and what they submit to, and a man, a woman, and a yes sir and yes ma'am, and whatever they like to get down with in that particular time of their life. So there's that fact on a very monogamous level. Grandmama probably was a little freakier than many of us want to believe. I'll just leave it at that. On a personal level with granddaddy. You know what I'm saying? So there's that element, very natural, very human, whatever, there's an element of that. But so that's why everybody keeps coming back to this theme of if you are not trying to go that route and you are forced at 10 or 15 or 12 or 3 or and everybody and their mama's like, hell no, that shit ain't never no good. But if you want to be on this judgment tip, oh, you gonna be so busy, prosecution office or person in LA or everywhere on this shit across America, you're gonna be so busy if you want to be consistent with the wrongness. Oh, you better get the jailhouses ready. You better build some more jails because shit, everybody's coming. A whole lot of folks is coming to get locked up. If that's the standard you want to start applying on everybody. And people that got a lot of money, they get together and do all kind of shit, but you don't call it a bunch of payment going on. What if they don't have this money and okay, baby, you got joint accounts and it ain't. But this idea that this one person, this witch hunt is what's being talked about. It's the RICO. It's this. We how many days into this 6 week, 8 week, whatever the hell it is, we just getting underway, and it's like this idea of an overreach that yeah, okay, hey, from an outside and the priest that
Boom.
that you went to. I'm about to land. I may not get the mic again because everybody's itching for it.
No, I was just agreeing right quick. I just said
Oh yeah,
boom.
yeah,
That's it.
it's all
Go ahead.
good. But you know what I'm saying? So it's this element of that from the moral high ground that we all, the chastity level we all live from, and that part of us that wants to be so, hey, can't, hey, that can't get out, and point the finger before that finger starts looking back at me. There's that element of, I know the priest wouldn't roll with it like that. Maybe, maybe not. I know, at the church house or the mosque or the synagogue, or I get it. Yeah, 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 yeah. I know. But there's a whole very natural element to life about sex and whatnot, and go into her as you like. And some very scriptural books say and do different, but there's an idea of agreement working together for the rest of your life. And grandmama put up with a whole lot, granddaddy put up with it's a whole lot that so when you get in that world, I think those that have enough understanding of life and real world, they like my man just said, how am I sympathize with you and you choosing to go into this world? Now I hate that you didn't have guidance and maybe nobody was in your ear. We always ask the question, where your uncles at? Where your daddy at? When the video went out, I remember my first knee-jerk reaction was like, oh, she definitely ain't got no brothers. And second, that video was saying you kick. I don't give a damn what the reason was. If that's how you get down, somebody's coming over like, hold up, partner, what the hell are you doing, Junior? That's somebody I love right there. So there's an element, obviously, there's a whole world, but there's millions that are living in a world that there's nobody guiding them, or they're not wanting to submit to the guidance. They just want to get out and learn the hard way or whatever. They got to learn for themselves type. So it ain't nobody wants that. But when you're gonna try to hang a person, male or female, this case is a male, yeah, you got millions of dollars, but you are agreeing in the Hollywood world, you want to be in that world. You know how much happens on the casting couch, and they, oh yeah, no problem. I'm gonna girl, if you're gonna get a man, and might as well get a rich one. Yeah, if you do, you look, girl, don't put up with that. You might as well put up with that shit, because hey, at least you're getting paid. So there's a whole lot of shit in the society that's already caked in. So that all of a sudden he get on things, and then it becomes you start to hear more and more. I like that. I wanted him to put attention on me. This is an abnormal situation. I didn't want him to be with that other woman. I wanted to be the one. There's no other, that doesn't happen every day, all day. And men don't watch that like, okay, girl, hey, if that's how you want to live. But and the dudes that don't go that route, do they get any? They like, hey, it ain't tripping, but shit, that go live that. But I want something else on this side as a man. I wanted this kind of woman too. So nah, go ahead on. It ain't you choosing that. So that's all of that we have to learn from. So I'll drop the mic right there.
Get it, sweets. That's a way to represent Clubhouse. When are we going to get you over here, sweets? Uh,
I'm working on that.
when you
I'm
coming?
working on that. I'm trying to limit,
Uh
trying to
huh.
limit my social,
Uh
social
huh.
life, social app stuff.
Uh-huh. You keep thinking about it. We'll wait for you over
Glad to
here.
know you keep the line on.
So
Keep the line
that,
on. I'll be home
huh?
soon.
There you go. I mean, that was some great stuff. And I don't know if Miki's back, but we will go to Rich. You brought up the concept of forced. I liked how you agreed with Miki on all the things that she said about Cassie, because I was with you on that. I think um, when Miki brought up the fact that she first saw like the abuse, I mean, that hit home because that's what a lot of us that day that we watched that video together felt. Um, at the same time, I think that men, especially after that day, I talked to a few people. Men also seem to have had that initial reaction of, well, wait a second, I actually have a story, whether it was personal or directly personal or personal to their sphere, of women who have gone above and beyond to um, narrate a personal relationship in a way that paints the man as a complete monster. And so I think both sides did what both sides do, and that's resonate with what's closest to them. So I would love to talk about that forced part because that word means different things, sometimes to the same people, based on where you apply it. For example, COVID, right? We spent a very long time in DTN on this topic of force as it pertains to not just a person's free will. In this case, we've talked tonight about how you're not going to get me to do certain things, right? I know me. And yes, I'm wise enough to have the conversation of, well, you don't know thee until you're in the mess yourself, right? I think all of us would fall in that same boat, though. And therefore, we have these conversations to create some form of framework to operate within. Cassie had the ability to say no to many things that she said yes to, period, in my book. Now, that word forced, I have empathy to bring that into my frame of mind, right? But I have to make sure that we agree to what forced would look like. Leslie brought up, she asked me directly on the stage if I was ever in a relationship that threatened my personal me, myself, and my family. And yes, but not in the same context of this case, right? So I'll leave that part there for the forced conversation. And then, AR, you brought up, I believe, directing things. So I'm happy to talk however you guys want to take the conversation, but it's been
Yeah.
great. And who wants to take that? Who was that? Was that
So
Rich or AR?
yeah. So real quick, I
Okay.
just want to throw in just a small point real quick. I think we we have to be careful, even though I know this is a very emotionally charged situation when you hear about the way that Cassie spoke about these things on the stand. But I think we have to be very careful in this, in the fact that let's not try to paint the picture that men are okay with these types of things that are happening to a woman who was forced to do these things, because I think that's what's happening a lot of times in these types of cases, and that's why a lot of them are coming to the forefront right now and happening to a lot of powerful people. And I can sit here and stand on a soapbox and say black powerful men, but it's a whole nother conversation. But we have to be careful with that, because what's happening is we're trying to draw a picture of that. Okay, men are okay with this type of thing happening. No, men, we're not okay with this type of thing happening. In fact, we feel that if Diddy forced her or anyone else to do these types of acts that they didn't want to do, and that there's proof of that, well, we want to see him under the fucking jail. As a matter of fact, we want to see
Facts.
what happens to him once he's in prison and has to deal with that. That's what we want to see. But
Facts.
if that man is not, if that man is not guilty of that, and that these are the acts that someone decided, hey, I don't want to lose this man because he has this, he has that, he is this man, he is that man I've always wanted. As a matter of fact, I'm going to leave the man that I was with, that helped me in my entire career, just to be with Diddy because he offers me more. And I'm going to do these things because I do not want another woman in that place. Well, sweetheart, I'm sorry that you went through everything that you went through. I'm sure it was very difficult when you went through the whole situation of the urine, when you went through the whole situation of the canker sores, the whole situation of that you had to go through at the doctor's appointments and all that horrible shit. Because to me, as a normal individual, I think it's disgusting, immoral, and gross. But that's my personal opinion. That is not what this man is on trial for. And I'm sorry if you are complicit in this and this is what you wanted to do. I'm sorry that happened and that you feel bad about it now, but I don't give two fucking shits, because this is what you chose. So let's be careful before we paint the picture that because we're stating that, well, no, this isn't what happened, or no, that isn't what happened, because we just heard what the facts was. Well, no, it's not that we're against women, it's that we're against bullshit. And that bullshit is that if you are complicit in that and this is the life that you chose, well, there you fucking have it. Everything that comes with it is yours.
So
I
why do
second
you
that.
think she wasn't? I'll pass it right back to, let's just, because I
No,
saw,
I
I
just
see
said I
you.
second that. I'm done.
Okay, cool. We'll go right to you because I see Miki came back. But Rich, when you said the word forced in regards to this case, what's do you not believe that she was forced? And if you don't, why don't you believe that she was forced? And then Miki's back, and we can ask her, why does she believe that she was forced? And anybody else that wants to jump in on the forced debate conversation that we're
You
about
should
to have.
moderate.
Yeah, I'd like to
Okay,
get. I'd
so
like to
my only
come in
reason
after
why I
Mickey. If you
don't
have a
believe
second.
that that she was forced, and I'm only going off of what I'm hearing here in the case, which is what everyone else should do, because it's not about our own personal opinions on what we think the facts were. We're hearing from her, from Cassie herself, on what she says happened. So that's all we can pretty much draw our conclusion on. So my assertion of this situation is exactly what she said. She said that she did these acts because she did not want him to find someone else. She didn't want anyone else in her place. I'm sorry, for me, that there is very damning if I'm the prosecution. And I'm not on either side. If he's fucking guilty, he's guilty. If he's not, he's not. But when someone says, I did these acts because I did not want him to be with someone else, I mean, come on. What the fuck are we talking about here now? The
And
Especially
only
you know
thing
because
that
what,
they
Rich?
we
put
should
in
be
We
that.
talking about is the money. And that's where he's pretty much sunk about. So.
we've got Bro in the chat chatting, so I'm gonna ask him something to see if he wants to participate. But you're basically saying, let me ask you guys this: has Cassie said that she was forced or coerced? Has she said that?
I don't believe so.
No.
No.
I haven't heard that so far. I
She
think
just
maybe later on
explained
she
why
started
she
saying
did
that
it. She
later
never
on
said
type
because
of
I was
thing.
forced.
Okay, Miki said she did, and so did Bro. Okay, you
Okay, so
guys,
let's hear it. Let's hear it, Mickey.
can you guys do you guys even want to speak on that? I know you guys are talking in the chat, but
No, I want to hear what Miki has to say.
no, that's what I'm saying. I'm asking them. You there, Miki?
Yeah, no, that's fine. According to the testimony, she was threatened. She was beaten. She would have to hide her face. She testified that Diddy or Diddy staff would take away her phone and her laptop. Um, that sometimes she felt like she was imprisoned. That she had to take a lot of drugs afterwards. That she would have to get fluids, and she was not allowed to like go to a hospital. Diddy had doctors similar to R. Kelly, actually, people on his staff that were able to treat them. Um, the most interesting part to me is that like the threats, the video in question at the Intercontinental that was around the internet that they showed again, she testified was because she had a premiere to attend, and it was after a freak off, and she attempted to leave, and Diddy was enraged, and that he was hitting her and telling her that she couldn't leave, and she was beat and she was abused. She also testified that some person on his staff, I believe called D Rock, at times were worried about her safety, and they would come looking for her, um, and basically tell her that it was time to ice her face, like if she had to make an event. She also said that when she got her apartment, that Diddy was right around the corner, adjacent to her, and that he could basically get to her place by golf cart. That's how he got back and forth from her place to his place, or if he needed to see her. It seemed like towards the middle or the beginning, maybe towards the middle, that she was somewhat afraid. Like she mentioned, not wanting to reveal who she was in a relationship with because Diddy would go through her phone. So it sounds like she basically had no autonomy. He'd also signed her to a 10-album deal, and she said she recorded hundreds of songs. She wrote the songs, but either a few of them were leaked or they were never put on an album. So that was also some aspect of control. Like when she testified about them hearing about Suge Knight, that they kind of got their guns and that she was concerned that they were going to go and confront him. So yeah, that sounds like manipulation, threats, coercion, to me. That if she didn't comply or put up a good front about things, then she would basically get beaten pretty badly. So yeah, that doesn't sound like it was something that was willing. If there was a threat of abuse, if she didn't comply in the manner that Diddy said. She also testified that he would frequently hit her, and that I believe that male escort also witnessed her getting abused, and that he in turn became afraid because the abuse was so bad, and it was also done plain sight in front of him. That was the one that actually testified. So those were his words, not even Cassie's.
I'd like to respond to just put some comments in the atmosphere about
Jump,
the four.
jump in.
Yeah, the force thing. She said she initiated some fights. The first time he got physical was in a scenario where they was at a restaurant and she deemed him to be flirting. Prior to that, she knows he's with Kim before she comes on the scene. He's got these children with Kim. To whatever degree he was in a relationship with Kim. It wasn't like this is a secret. This is back to choosing a lifestyle. This is back to when Mickey talked about how she grew up. You wouldn't choose that. Having said all of that, let me just throw this in the atmosphere so people can put this in context. If my daughter, I know how I raised her. If it came out that she's at UCLA or anywhere, and I find out that there's some shit like this going on, I don't give a damn if she's consenting to it or not. This is why I go back to where's the daddy, where's the brother, where's the uncles, where's the cousins. I'm going over there so quick. I don't give a fuck if she got a trillion bodyguards. If I die in the process, I'm getting your ass up out of that shit. I don't give a fuck what because I know how I raised my daughter. I'm telling you, like, and even also on the Rico thing, all these other dudes, if you love any woman, damn it, what the fuck are you watching and you ain't saying shit? That kind of shit. So where's all that prosecution? If you're gonna be hanging somebody, shit, there's a whole bunch. All list the whole everybody out, cause there's a whole lot of silence on that shit. But the fact that you're not listing all these cats out, there's another agenda that's easy to spot. You're not really trying to stand for justice. You're trying to hang somebody. That's it. It's so. But now back to the fact of again. I guess having grown up so close to Hollywood and shit. Thank God for my grandmother on both sides, my dad, my mom. Thank God for shit the choices. But when I tell you how normal and average back in the day, I'm talking about back in the 70s and the 80s and let alone today, shit, I don't even be knowing enough to know, but I have enough understanding to know this shit is so freaking average. But when you living and staying in a whole different world, you understand, look, man, woman, hey, I wish I could go treat every woman like it's my daughter. But how the hell you gonna dictate to people and they all in agreement with the whole lifestyle, man? That's what I'm saying is on the trial really is like, okay, you picking and choosing Diddy and you trying to act like this it's the choices that people make, man. These are the lessons that the world is gonna grab from all of this. The choices you make way back. There's prices. There's prices that you pay. If she don't ever get convicted and nobody else ever does, and did he? Okay, there's still a hell of a price you paid. You pregnant, you got a daughter coming up. There's a price that you paying, and the reality is, I don't know what happened in her life at 10 years old, 15 years, and you can't have this conversation with and leaving Cassie out of the equation. There's no way to, well, let's just forget about Cassie. There's no way to forget about Cassie because there's an element of husband, wife, relationship, poly, what the hell ever that has a degree of consensualness to it. And so anybody, any lifestyle, I guarantee you there are times my grandmother, they were married 60 years. I guarantee you there was some rough times and somebody might have wanted to leave or didn't leave but they stuck through that and they took some of that stuff probably to their grave and whatever. But that's part of it also is like, damn it, there's an element. If you true to this lifestyle, this is what the hell it is. The media's watching, Hollywood's over here, the paparazzi, the this, and this. So all of that. And so it's an understanding. If you jumping in that world, there's rules in that world. And when you jump out, Kanye or whoever the hell you are, or whoever, a woman, then okay, shit, getting out of that shit is not easy. So and thank God you out and you free enough to have another child, and thank God for that. But to act like there's no consequences, we don't live in a world where there's no consequences. We don't live in that world anywhere on this planet. So there's that element that okay, great. There's lessons now for a whole lot of girls coming up and boys coming up because at any point way back. If you ain't with it, you got a whole army of brothers and sisters that'll have your back. But if you saying I want to go do that, none of your business, mom, dad, I'm doing my own shit. I'm my own grown person. Go ahead on and let me know how that works for you.
Did the sound go out for me? Or did you finish, sweet?
Yeah, I dropped the mic kind of suddenly, but I definitely dropped it.
Yeah, no, you totally did.
Get
You
sometimes
to
you
I
just
mean, I'm reading the chat. You've got, the chat over here is like the chat over there. They just be hating sometimes. Sweet. They're saying, let's see, Miki, you want to tell him personally?
talk to me. Talk to me. Let me know what's on your mind. Hey, make
Oh
me the
man, I
scapegoat.
I
Make
mean,
me
just
your
Miki,
scapegoat.
Miki,
Go
I
ahead.
gotta tell you, I loved how you broke it down because I totally got the instant need to, like, the protection vibe came out. I can you imagine, and I think Leslie was bringing this up earlier. Can you imagine having somebody like freaking Diddy telling you that they're gonna kill you and they're gonna do this and they're gonna do that? I haven't found the testimony that confirms that Cassie said that he was gonna kill her and her family and all of that. I'll look for it. But I do think that you can get to the point where you're really scared. I think the challenge is, and the reason that I think you get upset is because she really isn't the one on trial, right? So for all we know, um, she doesn't want to be saying half the things that she's saying, and she's just coming from her own recollection and sharing all the things that she's gone through. But we come back to this, and AR, I think you wanted to jump in on your point that you brought up with regards to direction, but this point about forced, is it, Miki, is it that you think that she couldn't have walked away because she was afraid?
yes, and I'm not going to say specifically for Cassie, but I've learned the older that I got that there are a lot of situations that I can't just use my perspective on. Um, because that's not fair to that person, and we live different lives. And I have one of those fathers that um, is quite comfortable with guns and made sure that I was, and handles things. And I don't know the level of protection that other people have. I don't know how they grew up. I can't imagine someone putting themselves in that position, but I also can't imagine someone like such as Diddy taking advantage of someone putting themselves in that position. So I guess from my perspective, he's the monster, because when you tell someone that you love them, especially from a man to a woman, that is supposed to be protection, is the way that I know it. But I'm not a child. I'm still a little naive despite my age, because every single day on this earth I realize that um, there's a lot of pain in this world. And sometimes for some people, love comes with pain and abuse. So, like I said, I don't focus so much on what Cassie allowed, because yes, I think we can say that for sure if we're just being explicit. She was there, she did participate. But then I think if we delve into it, because humans are complex, and a creature in love is very much almost like a fool. And I've heard her say that quite often. I loved him. I love Sean. I love Sean. Even at the end, which I think is the most poignant part of her testimony, it wasn't the foul things that were done to her. It wasn't the things that she engaged in, the things that she did to please him. Because it's basically what this sounds like to me. It sounds like a woman doing whatever she felt that she had to please her man, right? Feeling desperate to do almost anything to keep him and not lose him. And um, even when she spoke about like not having a relationship with the children, and speaking to him about it, and he didn't take that seriously, it kind of sounds like almost like we throw the word narcissist around, but that's pretty classic narcissism, actually. It's making someone question what they mean to you, how they present themselves in your life. Plus, there's been allegations that Diddy has pretty much done this to a lot of the women in his life. There's allegations he did it to Misa Hilton, which is one of his son's mothers. There's allegations he did it to Kim Porter, which is another one of his son's mothers. Just everyone widely believes that there is even a witness that said that Diddy was the one who shot that night in the club, and Shine is the one who took the fall for that. And Shine has actually spoken about that as well. All of the stories in total that are very public just don't point to the fact that he's a very nice man. at all, whether he loved you or he did business with you. There's even, someone who said that he orchestrated uh, killing Biggie and Tupac. Like there's just a lot of uncertainty and violence surrounding this man. And I think that if you were what seems like a lucky place to be his woman, that came with a lot that you were required to do. And what I do hear, or what it speaks to me, is that it says is that he got his way a lot. Regardless, there were no boundaries with being with someone like Diddy. She said there were hundreds of freak offs, hundreds of them, and the longest lasting was 4 days, but the average was like 1 to 2 days. And I just can't imagine that. I just can't. This lifestyle of escorts and degradation and humiliation, and that what's astounding to me is that she's almost 9 months pregnant with someone that she met, that this man put in her life that pretty much saved her life, because he saw through all that and was still willing to marry her and carry his seed. I believe she's pregnant with her third child, which is, kind of like rainbow for her, because, I mean, my goodness, a man willing to accept all of that history.
Did she meet him through this situation with Diddy,
Hmm.
or is
Yep.
He was
And
her personal
Biggie
trainer
introduced her. Yeah.
through Diddy when she was still with Diddy. Yes, that's where she met her husband. That's who he was. That's the role that he had. And she um, finally left, and then they got married. So that's
yeah?
exactly how she
See,
met him,
it
from the
feels
situation.
like we're in the middle of people's like literal personal matters. I mean, we can have a whole conversation on. I think somebody gasped when you were talking about it's illegal to pay escorts and prostitutes and all that stuff because again, like I don't know if we're still here, but that's uh that's very controversial here in Los Angeles. And it brings us to the conversation as to how prostitution became illegal in the first place and all types of other things. Um, my concern with the age faded a little bit with the 21. I thought she was 19 when all this happened. Um, and I think we keep talking about it because I think it was AR that brought it up. Sometimes we demonize certain things that that I think are between consensual adults. So it's a tough one for me. I
Can I
think
say, when
I
you get
can't wait
done,
to see where it goes. Is that
and that was
AR?
also AR and probably me over here in Clubhouse. When you get done, I didn't want to cut you off.
No, listen. My bedtime is in 28 minutes. Hard stop for me. So you guys can keep talking about it. But what you got to say, sweets?
Um, the lack of love, the lack of love in people's lives, and I'm gonna get specific on Cassie, but to me, because it's so normal, Hollywood and this kind of thing that Diddy did, Clive Davis, who the frick ever, Epstein, it takes advantage of the lack of guidance that I feel Mickey had, I know I had, and that, again, the father, my goodness, you couldn't do nothing to stop my father from finding your ass. I don't give a shit what the courts say. This would have been handled way before no court would have ever came into the country. It's the lack of love around this girl. And we normalize this lack of love today. Oh, it's independent. We normalize it in life. But the reality of, when I say love, I mean, love will make you do some things as a father, as a brother. When you just love yourself, your people, it's just things you won't tolerate. Donald Trump just coming back from the Middle East. Some things you just don't tolerate, man. There's a zero, like it's understood. If you this one you upset this one, it's gonna be bad for you. This one right here. Now if you have a whole society like that, that's one thing. But definitely L.A., Hollywood, New York, America, you don't have no cultures like that. I mean, you have some. Don't get me wrong. Across the board, though, what's business as usual? The lack of love is what fuels Hollywood. I'm gonna say that again. The vulnerability that allows people to get into that across the board and the normalization of that shit is because there was no love coming up. or it was deemed as, well, I didn't really love me. They was, or whatever it is. So now what you kept hearing her say is, I wanted the love. I wanted the love. And I promise you, in Diddy's mind, girl, you got a beautiful lifestyle if you mess with me. Yeah, you could be one of them sisters, people out there in them streets. You driving nice. Oh, you like having sex too? And you know, what girl doesn't? Really, what boy doesn't like that feeling? But without the love, without the guidance, is my point. The guidance is so absent. LA Unified School District, high school, what? What? 20 years ago? Anytime. Today? What's normal? So you gotta weed through all that. So if nobody's around to say, hold up, hell to the no. Well, don't you trust me? No, I don't trust Mother Nature. It ain't about you, baby. You 16. You want to go to the movies and what? No, sir. No, ma'am. When you get 18 and 20, what you get on your own, okay. But I'm still raising you up a certain way. When you get out there, hey, you got choices you finna make in your life. Yeah, I'm running over there if something happens to you, baby girl, and at the dormitory. You better believe. But I am gonna ask you later on after I deal with the nonsense. Somebody, somebody probably ain't gonna be here no more for real. It ain't gonna be no advertised nothing. Love will make you do some stuff. But what was you doing at 3 in the morning at the goddamn dormitory? You didn't. What? You in the den of thieves, but you want daddy to protect you? There's a point that if you don't drive that point home when they coming up, no, hell to the no. I promise you that one personally. Anything around, I don't care what neighborhood, new, that right there will cost you your life, whoever you are. That one. I wish I could put that same blanket on everybody, but I'm responsible for that one. That kind of love, that kind of guidance is so yearned for. So by the time you now 19, 21, 22, and okay, who don't want nice stuff? Who doesn't want to be okay? And I know you in a relationship, but what about me? It's already so far off the base of love and peace and joy and harmony and don't look over your shoulder. It's so far from that. It ain't even funny. So in there, now you playing these games, but now there's a degree in his mind. You understand what this is, girl, from day one. This is how it go. What was he, 30 something years old, all this money in the world and getting more money and more stardom. What I'm saying is that whole lifestyle, that whole world, is everybody gonna go put on a mission tomorrow and go grab every woman that's out there and pull her away from that? Shit. You better have a trillion bullets. You better have armament. Man, it's serious. It ain't no joke. So everyone across the world is watching it now, like, ooh. So now everybody's tiptoeing a little different now. Walking on eggs, I promise you, a little different. Cause like, oh shit, damn, they reflecting on their own life right now. It's bigger than them two. But so all the layers of hanging this one, not hanging that one, yeah, but all the emotions get stirred up. Everybody has no choice but to say, how did I grow up? Is that okay? Yeah, that is kind of how I go. Oh no, not really. What? He did what? She did what? Oh yeah, she was with it. She was with the shit. Oh, all of that's going on because the world is in a place right now, and it's really a real thing. The actions that you take, and then she got a child coming up, and she's pregnant, and then we're gonna hang him, and the jury's gonna say, "Is it Rico?" This was a whole coordinated, And when the layers above Diddy, all these other layers above, man, it's so much. But we watching it, all this is coming up. It's a purification going on. It's coming out. Oh, it's being exposed, and everybody gets a chance to really look at self while everybody, the Jesus thing. Let him that ain't sin, you throw the first verdict. Throw the first stone. It's a levelment of that too going on. So, I'm glad it ain't me. And it's a lot of that. So all that's happening, I think, simultaneously. And a real question of morality, a question of love for people, looking out for, defending the defenseless. All of this is coming up, man, at the same time. And so I just wanted to say all that. But let it be no doubt about it. I don't know a man. I'm say it again. I know a lot of males, but I don't know a man that would not have taken some lives if they would have found out later on that I don't give a damn if she agreed or not. Some heads would have rolled. I promise you that shit. I don't, cause hey, hold up, partner. You still a man. God damn it. I don't give a shit if she's 30 years old. That's mine. Like shit. And that's what's missing a lot of times is men don't see other men checking men like that in society. When I grew up, shit, everybody, it wasn't gonna be no 911 calls. It was gonna be calls made. but shit was gonna get handled. Like, bro, you don't, not with this one, not with this family. And I'm just seeing that missing. That's missing out there.
Yeah, I don't think there was a man on a well, I can't say a man on the planet, but definitely not a man in this room that watched that video and it wasn't just totally angry. You know what I'm saying? Just totally upset with what they saw. You know what I'm saying? But even that has some context. And just because I'm saying that doesn't mean I'm co-signing that. You know what I'm saying? But I find it interesting that he said that she took his phone because that was the one thing he did snatch when he and the phone with video on it. And so what do we know? What do you know? She might have been trying to take something that she can prove. Maybe it was something to prove what kind of sex they was having. But he's seeing it more of a concern of, I'm not trying to have my video out there. You know, I don't know. We don't know anything, you know, as to the why. Not that there's a reason that, you know what I'm saying, that anyone would condone. But there's always more context to everything. But I just want to say, you know, when you're rich and famous, you know, everything is just elevated. You know what I'm saying? The cars you drive is elevated. The parties you have is elevated. Everything. You know what I'm saying? The houses, everything you own, and guess what else is elevated? The sex. And especially when you start pulling in IVs and having people administering IV fluid in you to have a sex party, like that's really some next level shit that none of us probably know about or want to know about. But when you're in the
For real.
lifestyle, like whoever was just talking before me was saying, like when you're in that lifestyle, you know what I'm saying, you get introduced to everything from the cars to the houses to the next level of sex. It is a lot of the stuff that's totally disgusting to us that we're hearing about, urination and all that shit, just might be some next level shit that, you know, people, you know, they do next level drugs and everything else too. So it's just a lifestyle that I think that, and everybody keeps saying, man, out here in LA, man, that's just normal. I've been hearing that every other every other every other like hour. Man, out here in LA, that's just normal, you know. You know, so I don't know, man. I don't think, you know, so far I think it was strange for the trial to start with with Cassie. I thought it was strange that they said the opening statements. They played that Cassie video over and over and over again, and I'm like, wow. I mean, why is that so important? When, you know, I heard they found guns. I heard, you know what I'm saying. It's so many. It's supposed to be a RICO case, right? So why was the Cassidy thing ran over and over and over like that? Like, you know, for the opening statement, and then why is it the first thing? You know what I'm saying? It just kind of makes it feel like they don't really have nothing. But again, it's supposed to be a 4-week trial, so I'm waiting to see all the other stuff that comes out. You know what I'm saying? So far though, I'm not impressed. I'm feeling like, yo, this does seem like a witch hunt. It does seem
But
like, you know, he was targeted. You do have to take into consideration, you know, all of the good that he was trying to do. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of video out there about that as well. It's also the liquor company thing. You know what I'm saying? There's a whole lot of reasons why people can be coming after him. You know what I'm saying? So it's not just nothing is what it seems. So all we could do is just go through the trial and see what comes out. That's it. But so far, just because some of us are saying so far, we're not really impressed. You know, and we don't really see, you know, what they have against them. It just is what it is. Doesn't mean that I condone beating up women or anything, or especially, like I said, drugging people and having sex with them against their will, against their even knowledge. That's crazy. So if that it comes out he did anything like that, then that's crazy. But a woman deciding, yeah, I just don't want him to leave me, or offer what he's offering to me to someone else. So I'm going to try to piss in the mouth the next time. I mean, she might have said no the first time, and yeah, I'm gonna try it. Fuck it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's going to help me get on. You know what I'm saying? You got to also weigh that fact part of it too. Like, what are you willing to do for the success that you're trying to achieve? And then when you're the person that's the person in power to award that, like, how much responsibility do you have when everything that you suggest someone is willing to do? what at what point, what I'm saying, are you at fault for allowing them to do it? It's just I mean, and the last thing I just want to say, they say you can indict a ham sandwich, right? And that's what it seems like so far. Like, that's why I asked the question that I asked earlier when I said, what's really the difference between making a pornography, and what Diddy's accused of? Because what he did, he filmed it, he directed it. Um, and just because he didn't put it out for $49.95, that's the difference. Because he kept it for his personal, you know what I'm saying? But what's the difference for paying sex workers, for flying them there? If you're making a film, a pornography film, it's legal, but for pleasure, it's not. That doesn't make sense. And that goes into how the laws are fucked up. The laws are just totally fucked up. Like, and the fact that they could bend anything anyway to get anybody they want is the part that I don't like. You know what I'm saying? It's so easy to railroad anyone, it seems, because all we got to do is interpret it this way. Had that law, it really was meant for this, but we're going to interpret it this way for this case. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that's the part that makes me question a lot as a black man that has been going that has seen a lot of people, you know, get hemmed up for convenience of someone else. And I'm gonna just leave it there.
Well, AR. So
Yeah.
let's start with the last thing you said. What is the difference between filming a porn and what Diddy was doing? That number one thing is punishment. So I mean, you film a porn, you get paid, you go about your business. You film a porn and let's say the director says, I don't like how that was done, you gotta do it differently. So you're critiqued and you do it differently. But in this case, you film something for someone. If they don't like it, they punish you. That's the difference. Like we're talking about a man who decides that he finds someone, they're willing to go along with what he says, and this is someone close to 40, while they find someone close to 18. But, okay, let's say close to 20. And they decide, like, hey, I don't like how you're doing things. So what do? They either reward them or punish them accordingly. And they'll even go to physical abuse with rewarding and punishing accordingly. That's no longer grooming. That's training, like a dog. Like literally, like some people treat dogs. They reward them and physically punish them. It's ridiculous, right? But that's what she endured in order to become who she was. So let's say you get beyond that. Now you go beyond that. Let's kind of go back to I think one of the beginning things because you kind of talked a lot and you danced around like 4 or 5 different points. Um, the the piece of this or the piece that I just don't understand, especially in Sweet danced on it. And it was the fact that now you have a young lady. She's falling in line. She's doing what her boss is telling her to do, or she's doing what her boyfriend is telling her to do. She's doing the things accordingly, right? Because she's just starting to experience life. But she's being told this is how we live life. And so she's being elevated. And this is me giving a definition of what I think, right? She's been elevated, right? There's Diddy, then there's her. So yeah, she's given power, right? So there's no negating that. She has power because she can go to anybody outside of Diddy and the people that Diddy tells to try to control her or take her stuff away and tell them, hey, do you not know who I am? Do you not know who my man's is? Is it, and off of that, everyone has to do what she says because they know who he is. Because he's the guy that says, "Man, I'm gonna blow up your boyfriend's car," and then the car miraculously blows up. Now you have someone who's been elevated, but she's been put on a pedestal and she's been elevated in a glass box. It's a glass box. It's a I'm up here, but I can't step outside of this box because whenever I step out of this box, the person who put me in this box punishes me, which means now I have to get back inside this box. So as much as we want to look at her in her position is control, and that's the part where I don't understand people aren't seeing because that's the picture that was painted by the prosecution, and it's actually the picture that was even still painted by the defense without people actually acknowledging it. Because they're basically saying, man, she loved this. She blah, 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 this. It was always this, but she was trained to be this way. She was trained to not step over the line. She was trained to love certain things. She was put in this position where, hey, listen, you can stay like this or not. But let me tell you what happens if you don't stay like this. If you step to the left, man, you're gonna get popped. If you step to the right, you're gonna get popped. So you might as well stay on this path. And with people not understanding that, and the fact that if you're in a certain situation, you will learn to love the good things that you have in your situation. You'll learn to love the nothing of your situation. Because if all things are negative outside of what you're doing, then you're gonna learn to stay out of the negative and out of the punishment and just love the fact that you're not being punished because you're being mentally trained to be that way. And to see a young lady grow like that and to become what she is. Now, here's the thing. I don't take away from her because now she's that kind of person. Because you have the Mendes brothers who are bred or trained to be the way that they were to where they killed their parents. Is it them entirely? Is it entirely their fault? No, but they were created to be the monsters that they were. Just like her. She was created to be the monster or what we consider everybody's complaining about that she was. But she was still created to be that. And that's the problem in the situation that what you're saying, AR. You're not giving the accountability to the person that had complete control of who she would become. Because if there was a different situation, let's say there are people who are seeking mentorship, they will basically look for someone who's probably like 10, 20 years their age to mentor them. And they would be like, hey, this is what you need to do. This is what you don't need to do. That person bears the responsibility, especially when they full on submit to the mentorship. They bear the responsibility of the person that they're mentoring. And we're not looking at it like that because there are plenty of situations where there are young people who are being mentored, but the person is using it in their own personal gain, whatever that gain may be, whatever their desire is, they're pushing it upon that person outside of the normal moral code of let me help you become what you're trying to become. And that's what happened here. Cassie was an artist, wanted to be a better artist. He took advantage of that. She didn't have the family around her or the circle around her outside of him to protect her from whatever it was, or at least the circle that was strong enough to defend or guard her from what he was. And now she became, or at least grew into what it was, and what she became after like 10 years. Here's the other piece. After they separated, she went quiet. She went off to be a mother, a wife, and you didn't even hear anything else bad about her after a certain amount of time. She was slowly dissolving the communication, but that was that. Him, on the other hand, man, even the last woman he was with, he still picked somebody on. He still followed the same MO. They were even still putting in wording to where, what was it? Not sex trafficker, whatever the heck Young Miami was. But this is what you get out of the two. In the end, his his rooster came home. I mean, his chickens came home to roost, and hers came home to roost. And they're both in there, but they're in two different situations. Notice she isn't on the same side as a co-defendant, but she's with the prosecution giving information. And that's where, to me, there should be some kind of realization of This guy has definitely been on this track for a while. You got all these examples, but nobody is acknowledging it enough to be like, man, he's trash. Right? He may be rich, but he's trash. He's a billionaire, but he's trash. I mean, when does it come to the point where you say, man, how many baby mamas can you have, Elon Musk? Come on now. But he's trash. How many things can you do until we finally draw the line and decide that someone has gone too far? And that's the cold conversation I've heard all night is that there's a point where, yes, I've already said, if there's a co-conspirator for him, the next person that should be up to actually have charges is her. But first, handle this guy to the fullest extent because he's trash. Man, hope
I
nobody
mean,
knocks on my door,
I
but
mean,
he's trash.
let me
Go
ask
ahead.
let me ask you this. So he's into what he's into, right? Let's just say what he's into is S&M, what they call it SBDM, the leather, the choking, the being walked on with high heels and all that shit, being walked like a dog, being pissed on is I think part of that community, right? They say a lot of judges like that kind of lifestyle behind closed doors and shit. But let's say that's the lifestyle. And let's say you meet someone who's not who doesn't know anything about that lifestyle. And you tell them, well, this is what I'm into. And they like you. And, you like, well, this is what I went into. You know what I'm saying? Can I put a leash on you? Can I put a collar on you or whatever? You know what I'm saying? And let's say, that starts to slowly elevate into something. And then the next thing you know, that person is in the pain, they nipples being pulled and all kinds of shit, right? Now, the person that introduced them to all of that is a criminal,
And that was the whole
right?
statement, huh? So here's the thing: you only gave a slice of the pie. Here's the problem. So it's a person walking up to him. We'll keep with your same scenario. I'm into this, and I would like to put a collar around you, but also I'm going to pay you $40,000 a year. The average income right now in the United States is like was like maybe a rack over. It's like $51,000 a year. So it's definitely less 10 to 20 years ago. But she's getting paid 40,000. Sorry, not $40,000 a year. She's getting paid $40,000 a week, and she's young. So right as of now, I don't even know what to do. I don't even know what to think because I'm getting more money than anybody's in my family, my friends. Nobody's ever thought about getting the money that I'm thinking that I'm getting right now.
So now
So
this
when
is
it
right.
right, and so now when it
Go
comes to advice, hold on. Now we're at the advice part. Now we're at the words that could actually save her from her situation. Everybody that I talk to isn't getting what I'm getting. Everybody that I talk to, after 2 weeks, I've already made more than what they've made in a year, which means in a month, I'm really helping them. I don't know who it is, but nobody can tell me about what I got going on right now because nobody else has it going on right now. And now we go back to your scenario where let me put a collar on you because I'm into this. Well, you know what? Because this is the thing. Most people don't like their job, but they still go to work. What for? The check. That is the number one reason you hear people say, "Well, man, why? If you don't like the place, why are you still working?" The check. And so, why are you still dealing with this guy when you don't need to be there? Skip forward the check. Now, here's the thing: I try to walk away. I'm tired of the check. The moments I do, because you even talked about him snatching her phone, but you didn't talk about him stomping her, right? You didn't talk about him grabbing her by the leg and dragging her for a
No,
second,
facts. All of that was horrible.
right?
But yeah,
But here's the thing: now
I'm
you're
just I
playing,
put context to.
No, but that's the
is
context, right?
it
I'm
is
following your
it, yeah,
context.
it is a why that happened. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that's even true. You know that it was because she took his phone. I'm just saying that that's what's out there. That's a scenario that's out there. You know what I'm saying? But go ahead.
Yeah, but hold on. How about this?
If
Because in
somebody
your
steals from
context,
you,
it
that kind
was
of
right for
changes.
him
That can
to wait.
change
Whoa,
the
whoa, whoa,
scope.
whoa, 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 whoa. In your
And let me jump
context,
in
it
after he
was right
finished.
for him to actually chase her down and like do all the physical stuff to take his phone when he's a man. Like, I mean, are you going to really follow up with
I'm not
that
signing none of
in the
that.
context?
I'm not co-signing none of that. I'm just saying that.
Okay, I'm just saying,
I'm
but
just saying,
that's your context.
yeah.
Let me jump in. Let me jump in because there's a whole lot of context being left out. She chose that life. I know some people that are in relationships that I've seen growing up that are some, one way you can lose your life real quick where I grew up, jump in another man's domestic life, another woman in another man's household, get in between that. I'm talking about,
Sweet,
Yeah, I
hold
wanted to
on,
hear
sweet. Hold on, sweet. Let me rebuttal
yeah, I
because
ain't even
I'm
let
gonna
you
let you go
hold
right
on,
back,
hold on,
but
hold on. I ain't
because
even got
she
nah, but
started
Jay
choose
with
that
wasn't
it.
finished,
life.
man.
Hold on,
I just
hold
want to
on,
know.
hold
I just
on,
want
hold
to ask
on, hold
this
on,
because you
hold
said she
on, hold
chose that
on.
life, but she tried
I'm gonna
to
prove it.
choose
You gotta let me
outside of the
prove it
life.
though.
What
Hold on,
happened?
bro. Hold on. You gotta let me prove it. Let me prove it because I know some people. See, she wasn't from that life. She got how many millions of dollars is she worth today? That world that she chose to be in offers you the promise of, unlike some porn. I don't know what porn people make, but are they making? Are they worth in the porn world what she's worth on the dollar bills in her pocket right now? What I'm telling you is she chose to be in that world. She's not from that world. I know people that I'm not talking about the Hollywood world. I'm talking about everyday life in the neighborhood world. That they shoot. This understood. You leave who the hell ever. Shit, it's gonna be a price. And they stuck. They stuck. They in that world of they ain't getting paid to be in that world like that. They got their own reasons and these are people that's all throughout the neighborhood that they living in a certain kind of world that so when they see the Cassie stories, they're like, girl, you choosing to be all up in that world. You ain't some I don't know person. You singing songs well. There's a price in that world, man. Go ask SKG, Spielberg, Kenner, and go ask Hollywood stars how many videos are out there that are hanging over people's heads. You better not say a damn word. We got some footage on you.
See, that's
What
the
I'm,
shit that shit right there. That I'm waiting for shit like that to come out.
this is
Like
what I'm saying.
blackmailing people
But
with
you gonna
videos
hang
that
Diddy.
was made of them and all that shit
This
like
is what
that.
I'm saying. You gonna hang
Yeah.
Diddy. I gotta pretend like I
But
don't
Jay,
know.
Jay, I want you to conclude what you was the point that you was making when you was responding to the S and all that shit, and you said the difference is you getting paid this huge salary. Go ahead, conclude what makes him criminal in this
Oh,
scenario that you
oh, what
that
makes him criminal?
yeah, in this scenario because you said the only difference is you
It's
said
the
the thing that I
violence.
left out is that you know, there's this huge salary that comes with it. And then the
Oh, no,
person
no,
wants
it's
to leave
easy.
now,
All
the
right,
person
yeah, no, it's easy. It's the violence. The money's one thing. I told you the difference. So I said the punishment, but the difference is this because I think I was just told to go to bed. Um, difference is this: you have the prize and then you have the punishment. He's easy for him in a situation and at his age and experience to give the prize. Always able to rain money down no matter what. But the one thing that we're being negligible on is the punishment. Like he punishes who doesn't fall in line.
and that's illegal.
What the hell? Yes, it is. You can't hit people, beat people, blow
Oh,
things up,
okay.
grab guns and ride out. All the things because he's street. He came from the streets. His
Okay.
dad was the streets. His dad had or understands organized crime,
But that's
which
not what
he
he's on trial for.
wait, wait,
Back,
wait, wait, wait,
back
which
to
he
that.
passed on to his son. Hold on. He passed on to his son. So now here's the problem. He decides I want to operate a certain way. And so for him, personally his there's what his problem is. But the thing is that yes, it's illegal for domestic violence, right? What we're right now, people are like fully understanding is that he committed domestic violence.
Yeah, but that's not.
Everything else,
Yeah.
wait, everything else is what how people feel it's up for discussion. Now, technically, I promise you, under law, because we were sitting for the updates, it's illegal to actually pay for somebody to cross state lines for sex, because that is really the baseline of what you need for sex trafficking. That's it. It's like nothing. Everyone is like it needs to be more, but it doesn't.
That's
Like
just.
that's the baseline, right?
I hear you. I hear you.
It's
I hear you. That's
all
it.
right. And so the other piece is that you can also be the person at the top orchestrating, and someone else be the person that organizes and has someone travel state lines for sex. And basically, this is the RICO piece of the racketeering piece. You're the person, you didn't do it, but you're the person that told the person to do it. So that's here nor there, because they're going to get them on other stuff, because the whole travel piece was just on its own is enough. But the whole ideal is this, and this is his problem. His personal problem is that he, like, I think Sir Jude really tipped on it. He has an addiction. So let's say people like to have a drink, and I think there's some, I don't know, whatever the question, whatever. You can have a drink every night. You wake up in the morning, you go to work, you do well, you're good. But then there are people who are alcoholics. The only thing that actually substantiates alcoholism is the fact that somebody might wake up late, make it to work late, and then alcohol impedes them from actually doing their job well. Does look they can The funny thing is, if the company doesn't have a policy against drinking on the job, if they showed up on time and they were drunk, but they did their job and they went home, alcoholism wouldn't actually be applied. But the fact that them drinking actually interrupts them doing the job properly makes it alcoholism. So now apply that to how he is with sex and everything else that he does. The fact that he puts his job, his company, his livelihood in jeopardy off of chasing these extravagant sex ordeals, he has a problem. That's his personal problem. Now, the fact that this personal problem now overlaps into how he treats other people, because think about this. He tells his employees, take her laptop, take her phone. Man, I'm about to slap her. I punched somebody in the face. I've broken my ex's nose, and with her, I've struck her plenty of times. They caught me on camera once, or they probably caught me on camera more than once. But this is the one piece of camera footage that I didn't collect, and so now they caught me actually chasing somebody down, and pushing them to the ground and kicking them a couple times. All this plays a part into him and his actual illegal activity. Because when it comes down to it, you can look, your woman now could call the police and say, man, he touched me. What's going to happen? They're going to come, they're going to put cuffs on you, they're going to take you down to the precinct. You might not go to jail, but guess what? You can't go back there for the night. We'll work it out in court another day. He paid his way out of all those events, and now he is where he is because it's built up over time. And now the one person is co-conspirator, the person that I believe that should be charged right along with him, is now one of the key witnesses to him, and being like beyond indicted but charged, and found guilty by his peers. She's sitting on the other side. His problem, his personal problem, has led him to his guilty acts, which is going to get him in trouble. I mean, if you want to, I mean, I get it. Some people want to try to figure out how to play, like, let's say, like, stadium lawyer, like way back in the nosebleed lawyers. But in reality, man, the guy is who he is. Everybody knew Diddy been playing by the wrong rules. We all knew this. I mean, if we're not gonna judge about the streets, we're gonna judge about what it is. We're listening to him I mean, I don't know if you listen to it, but like on the app every day, there's like a room, and it's just, and in fact, it's two rooms giving continuous updates of the court case and what's being said, like continuous, up to date. And so with this, we hear the things that are being said and what's going on. It's only like two, three, and they have at least, it's not 4, it's 6 to 8 weeks. Ar 6 to 8 weeks of people for them to actually lay a case. And all they want to do is, I mean, they want to catch him on two things, but as long as they catch him on one, he's going to jail. And for the most part, they've already caught him on one. They're just trying to catch another one.
That,
Think
that's
about
that's
that
to
for a
be
second.
determined by the jury. The jury is listening to all of this, and so that's to be presumptuous and say what's going to happen is way too early in the game. That's what I'm noticing. Whatever someone's bias is, they're going to lean that way and they're going to read it that way. It's almost like a Democrat Republican conversation. Same exact facts they're looking at, and it's going to come down to, again, those jury of those 12 people. In fact, all he got to do. I'm not promoting either side of anything, but just jump to a conclusion when one person is all it takes to hang that whole thing. Jury, the hung jury. When I say hang it, meaning no conviction. So what I'm saying is it's way too early to tell, but everybody's watching again the selective hanging is what we're talking about really more than anything, because what's become clear now, prior to the trial getting started, everybody had all their own ideas or whatever they thought, like I was saying earlier, kicking a woman and all of that. Now you're hearing her saying, I started these fights. I started these fights. I wanted to do these things. That's if you're on the defense side,
Then how do you separate? Then how you separate like that from a actual abuse from
that's what I'm saying.
role
The
play?
jury.
Like you understand what I'm saying?
It's the jury that's gonna, at the end of the day, the jury's gonna sit there and say, and none of us are in the room. None of us have seen everything the jury has seen. And so it's gonna come down to pulling on the heartstrings one way or another. The judge is gonna admonish everyone. Go by what you've seen, go by the facts, beyond a shadow of a doubt, reasonable doubt, yada, yada, yada. It's so the bottom line is though, what's waking up is that it's way more complicated than whatever. Again, how old was she when this kicking happened? These are all variables in the hotel. I say how old, how long had they been together? You can't take out of context
Because that
the
was supposed to be a
history
long
of the
time ago,
whole
right? So
story.
that she could have been real young when that happened. I
I
Let
don't
me
don't.
tell
know.
you what, I
I
have
don't
low
know.
tolerance for a
I
man
can I
that's
get it, but
39, 40 that's dealing with a girl that's 21.
I get it.
Low
I get it.
tolerance. I'm
I
not gonna
get
lie.
it.
So that's
I
my
know you
bias.
have
I ain't gonna lie
zero
to you. That's my
No,
tolerance,
I
bias.
but
agree with that.
we back to the law. What I'm saying is because again, at the end of the day, they're choosing the prosecutors. When you know all of this, the actual teenage, or not, well, yeah, youngster shit that goes on, and all kind of other shit that goes on that don't never make the news about none of this shit. What I'm saying is, they need about I don't even know how many hundreds of thousands of more jail cells. If the bar is that every time anywhere this is happening, shit, y'all get ready to hang a whole lot of people. This is what I'm saying. I'm not just justifying none of that shit. Let's be
Hey,
crystal
hang
clear.
on. But hold on one second.
Well,
Hold on one
okay,
second. Sweet.
okay,
Hold on one
okay.
second.
But I'm saying, but the
Sweet,
fact that
sweet,
they're
sweet.
not
Hold on one second.
hanging some people
Because I
doing
realize, sweet.
some real
Hold on.
trafficking. There's
Sweet,
some real.
sweet,
Hold on,
sweet. Hold on. Hold on,
you
hold on,
saying
hold on.
hold on, but
So,
I let you go
She's
no,
before.
breaking up.
there's someone on chatter that's have her
Talk.
hand
Let
Oh,
up.
him
okay, go
talk.
ahead, go ahead.
No, no,
I
no,
didn't
no,
know
no,
there was
no.
somebody else. My
Someone,
bad.
yeah, someone on chatter. Mary Kim, your hand's been up. I realize it's been up for a while, and I don't want us to get carried on. So if you're around,
Oh, we doing.
uh,
No,
you
go
want to
ahead.
talk?
Oh, yeah, thank you. This has been great. So, I love this conversation around domestic violence. I was happy. So I'm kind of new to this space, but I know about this space, but I don't really come in and share in this space. So I was very happy when the news came out about this case, right, from back in the day before it even came to court, right, to where we are today. Because domestic violence is something that is not talked about in many spaces. So, just a fact around domestic violence. So, about 50 years ago, Time magazine put out an article that said it is okay for your husband, the man, right? Because back in the day, a lot of women, we didn't have rights, and we had to abide by the husband, right? The man of the house, right? There were no rights really for women back in the day on certain things. Time magazine actually put out an article about 50 years ago saying it is okay that your husband comes home and beats you, hits you, because that's his therapy. And you have to abide and be okay with that, basically, was the article. The reality is today is that, one, we don't talk about domestic violence enough and what happens. And it's and this is based only on what people come out and share around domestic violence. So whether you are a female or a male, and you are in a situation around domestic violence. So the average of the stats that we know that they get information on, that people actually say, listen, I was in that relationship, right? Because it's a taboo. We don't talk about these things. This is something that I know a lot of people grew up in that space. But it's one out of three females and one out of four males that are affected by domestic violence. And how that happens, kind of thing, is that, we call it today love bombing, right? You get into a relationship, whether it's the abuser person who is either the male or the female, right? Because it could be both, is they love bomb you, right? And you fall in love, they're doing all the right things, and then they're slowly, as they, have you by the your heart, right? If the person is wants to control you, it could be a situation around where Diddy is. He's got that power. So not only can he control you, but he's got the power to manipulate you in a different way. Money, I can do this. Lawyers, people who will do whatever he says because they're going to get paid a nice penny, right? But in everyday America, the reality is there isn't no help, right? And we're under the spell of this person. We don't share it because it's something that many of us grew up that we don't talk about that, right? And men don't specifically share it if they're in that situation because you're not a man. How did you have this lady beat you up, right? We see it on these stands and what I've heard in this space, and it's in a lot of spaces like this around this, about when a woman is either raped in an abusive relationship and they go to court and the lawyers and this and that. Many times, a high percentage, they don't believe the female. And I've heard it in this space. There's nothing wrong with everyone's opinion and their viewpoint based on their life experience and what they know and or don't know, right? And we're only hearing about what they're bringing up in this case. And it's shameful. We don't talk about it, right? And as young as 9 years old, in America, just to give some stats around this, in America, I don't remember how many states, but as young as 9 years old, some states in America, not, and sometimes we think it's only in the foreign countries, there are laws that says the adult dad or mom can sign off their child, which is typically the female child, to an adult because it's legal in that state. And many times it's to a grown AS man, and many times that child gets abused. She gets put into a situation. She's married, so now she is his partner and is raped, right? So the fact that we talk, and then we see in these trials where women, put their abuser and or their rapist, right? Instead of, I'm not sure if I can say the word RAPE, in on trial, and a lot of times they ridicule the woman or the young girl. Oh, did you want it? Right? You wanted it. You drank too much, right? We don't really hear that language when it's reversed, where the male is on trial, right? The male is uh, putting someone on trial, right, for abusing them or domestic violence, even domestic violence, right? So domestic violence is illegal, right? But a lot of times, this when you put a case in, you get that restraining order. A lot of places, depending on where you live, may not follow it, right? May not put the abuser on where he needs to be or she needs to be, rightfully so, to protect the person who was abused, right? It's something in America that we don't do very well in a lot of places. In some places we do. So I just wanted to bring that up because it's something that we don't talk about enough, but it's a reality. And so for me, I grew up in two domestic violence homes thinking that because this is what the adults said, oh, we're just fighting. We're just fighting. But when you have guns and choking and all these other things, and I actually lost my mom through the hands of my father, but we don't talk about it enough, and it still happens today, of these misconceptions of what the reality is, right? And you only know when you know, but it's something that I love that we can talk about and have these different viewpoints. And we don't know all the things, especially on a case, because they only going to show what highlights where that agenda is for either the prosecutor or the defendant, right? We know they just want to win the case. However, this is a real thing that happens in everyday communities that we don't even know about. And what happens once they love bomb you, right? They give you all the stuff and they slowly manipulate the person, whether it's the male doing it or the female. And we get stuck in this space. If you've ever been beaten down so much or in a place in your life where you kind of just wanted this person to love you again, right? Or because they don't love you the way they did when in the beginning of the relationship, and you will do whatever it takes in certain times because you're beat down so much, you don't have a lot of self-worth, whether it's from childhood or a prior bad relationship or abusive relationship. Mentally you're not there, and so all these dynamics affects when you're in this relationship that Casey was in with P Diddy, right? There's this is a whole mental, emotional thing, and they also take a lot of times not only they put you down, right? Take away your self-worth, your value, right? Oh, you're not good enough. They talk negative to you consistently, beat you, give you little things to like you afraid and the trauma and all that stuff. So all these things we have to take in consideration thinking about the other person who's going through that, right? Of why they don't report it. And the reality is I think it's so I know the stats on when you're in a domestic violence situation, right? Is that it takes up to 7 times or more before someone leaves that relationship because of what I just shared. And the other thing is, if they don't get out by the 7th time, the stats are from what they know of those who report that they were in this type of relationship, they will most likely die. So those are the stats that I just wanted to bring to the table. But I love that we could talk about it and hear all different scenarios and learn more. But I just wanted to bring up like this situation is a real thing. And it's not like most women, I only could talk from women, right? But I know this happens to men who are in these situations as well. They don't talk about it. But also, you feel like you still love the person, right? Even if they're abusing you, I know it sounds wackadoo, but because of that love, right? And you're like, oh, wait, this is not how it was beforehand, right? Why is this happening? I am the person who's causing this, right? Because your abuser is telling you that. So all this psychological stuff happens if you've ever been in a trauma scenario or situation or abused. If you've gone through that and healed through that, not trauma dumping, not in this space of that, but and healed and worked yourself through that. You know that this happens as little as, which is not little at all, if you were abused as a child, right? So I just wanted to bring it to the table, and just share my viewpoint. So thank you, Ajay.
That was some great points
Man, no,
about.
go
Can I
ahead,
just say
sleep. Go
real
ahead,
quick
sleep.
before I go to sleep? It's great conversation around all this. This stuff needs to be addressed, and like sister just brought up, domestic violence is a huge thing. So bringing this up and and it's a great thing to talk about because it's such a big problem. Therefore, it needs to be addressed, and there's a lot to it, and the mental and all of that, and the lack of love, and what people do, and power, and women controlling men, and there's things a woman can do too that can control. And don't think that women don't have power even at whatever age, and the men doing these things to the women and physically and whatever. And so, but you know what's so crazy, and I think it's going to be the recurring theme about this whole thing is he ain't brought up for domestic violence. That's the point that I want to speak to. If it was being brought up on for domestic violence and that shit, slam dunk case, nothing else to talk about, no sympathy, no love, whatever the penalty is, 10 exit, domestic violence. The BS, sex trafficking, that would mean against their will. When there's some real childhood sex trafficking, there's some real trafficking shit goes on. For real, for real. This ain't that. This ain't
Yeah, you
nowhere
don't
near.
have to be against their will. That's what I was thinking too, right?
Hold on.
Yeah.
This is not that. Rico, like a whole operation of so far, that shit is nowhere near approved at all so far. That but domestic violence all day long, but he ain't brought up on domestic violence, RJ. This is the AJ. I forget I know your initials, AR. But I'm over here in Clubhouse. I can't see. I'm sorry, but
Yeah,
I'm trying
they
to.
are. You good? You good though?
Okay, yeah, my bad, AR. You see what I'm saying? That's the whole point. Domestic, this is what gets wrapped up. This is where the emotions get real crazy with all the people watching because it's almost like people are saying, no, Rico, sex, that. No, hell to the no. You ain't meeting that standard or none of that shit. That's what are you talking about? But so therefore you're co-signing for domestic violence. That ain't nobody saying that. No, hell to the no. Domestic violence, it's a quiet case. It's over with in 10 hours. Five, hey, okay, whatever, great, guilty, what move on. Ain't no doubt. No doubt. The woman, whatever, okay, both of them sue each other for domestic violence. I don't know, whatever. First one that filed first win. Shit, it's okay, I hit him for hey, do that. That's domestic but sex trafficking across state lines because people go to parties in different states, they schedule them out month after month way on smaller levels than him, way on bigger levels than him. Like they just get together and charge money, hotel fees, and do that and shit, freak offs and freak Nick and what? What are you? what? And you want to this? But that's the hypocrisy of the whole shit.
Yeah,
That's what.
that's why it's the laws are the issue too.
You
On
see
when
what
it
I'm
comes
saying?
to that, because it's like, and that's why I said the whole indicted ham sandwich thing. Because it's like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, y'all can bend anything in any direction. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That's the part
Right.
that
And again,
I'm
domestic
disgusted
violence,
with.
like the sister just got off the mic all day. Shit, let's highlight that. That needs to be fixed. We got to build better communities. It's all kind of bullshit people are scared of and running from all day. Hell yeah. But you're not even talking about that. It's just kind of using the empathy and of all that in the backdrop, and then trying to elevate the charges on some other shit. That's the problem. That's where it looks like now you're defending pity. Now you're defending bullshit. Now, no, man, it's some selective bullshit. That's the part that. Meanwhile,
I
up
agree.
underneath the
I agree.
underneath the
I
reality
totally can
there.
understand that. I from what I heard, and I haven't really listened to the trial, but what I heard before the trial is that he did take minors apparently across state lines, and so that is
We gonna
illegal. And
see.
especially if you go across
We
state
gonna
lines,
see
you
if that
get
plays
into
out.
federal
Yeah, my
Okay, so
charges.
hold
So
on,
far, that
hold on,
hasn't
whoa,
been
whoa, whoa, whoa,
proven.
whoa,
That's all we
whoa.
saying. So far,
There
that
have
hasn't
been
been
no
proven.
minors implicated in the
Say it again.
case. There are people who cross state lines, but there's been no minor who's actually being implicated, as in crossing state lines. So remove the minor part because that's not been like discussed or stated in the case at all.
That's why I
Exactly.
said before the trial, there was a lawyer in Cali, I believe, that had a handful or so of minors that came through, and so I forget the lawyer's name, but
all
so
his cases were.
going on that, and also my understanding, because I don't have the facts, but my understanding of what I saw, around the social media before the trial is that everything was all the freak off parties and stuff, freaknik parties were all videotaped, right? And if you do that without people's consent, which I don't know if they had consent, I believe there was NDAs apparently signed, but if you film people without consent in most states, that's illegal. So, but just I'm not I don't have all the facts, just what I heard.
Okay, so with the facts of the case so far, no one has actually come forth and said they've been filmed without consent. Um, I don't think all freak off parties have been filmed, but he does have a fetish with filming um events, or at least being able to see it. But there's been nothing to where someone has been filmed without consent.
I know in New York State, as long as two people know about the recording, you can record anybody, which is wild. But yeah, but it can't. It has to be another person that knows that the recording is happening, and it could be another four people in the room that don't know. As long as two people know.
The whole thing is we gonna see up to this point, and then the case is obviously not over. You know, you're 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and we're talking about 3 days, 4 days so far. So they just getting scratching the surface, and then they saying no. But I think the rush with Cassie though is because she's pregnant, and that she could deliver tomorrow. It's almost at any moment type of thing. And I think that's where they was even saying about tomorrow. Like, we need you to be done by tomorrow, defense. And defense is like, we might not be done till next week. But, so there's all those dynamics too. But anyways, guys, obviously it's a human attention that's on it as people, as fathers, mothers, children, male, so it's definitely the trial of the century, as they say. A lot tied up in it. But pray for the best, pray for her, pray for that baby, and pray for hey, justice be served, but hopefully there's some mercy because, hey, whoo, it's a lot going on. Y'all be good, stay strong. I got to sign off. Peace and blessings to y'all.
Peace.
All right, so have a good night, man. And on that note, I'm 1 minute beyond where I'm supposed to be on this app. Is there anybody else who would like to talk or have anything else to say? Because I will be signing off. I don't know if there's another co-host on chatter right now, so I'm not sure if anyone else be brought up from the Google, but I do want to make sure this open to everyone who wants to talk.
Looks like everybody else is asleep.
Well, sounds like we're some. Then I need to join them. I need to follow the crowd today.
All right.
Don't check mark me, Lisa. All right, they are. Till
I
tomorrow,
said what I
man.
said, Jay.
I saw you. I saw you say what you said. RAR till tomorrow, man. But hey, if you
All right.
get a chance, just hey, listen in on the DTN local, because that's how we keep up with the updates. Like, so usually McConaughey comes in and he just continuously keeps up with the actual literal updates from the court case and reads them out loud. That's how we're keeping up with the information. So that's how, like, some people are like, man, well, hold on. And tonight it was like, man, these guys they're not actually keeping up with what's going on. It's
Mm.
just because it's so, like, while I'm working, I have a headset in on my left ear, and I'm listening to the updates. Just like, because it's the filler, right? Um, so yeah, maybe tomorrow if you get a chance, like around noon, between noon and 2, just listen in for the updates if you can. Okay.
All right. That's what's up. Cool. Appreciate that.
All right, no problem. Other than that, hey, room, good night, because I'm out.
All right. Diana, you sleep too?